Baby, it's cold outside. I know I keep saying this, but it keeps getting cold. So, oh, pretty bad. It's pretty bad. And to be fair, tomorrow is gonna be even worse, if such a thing is even possible. So rough out here. Maybe that's why, right? Maybe that's why women choose the bear. They understand in such a fundamental way that hibernation is some sort of advantage. Are they wrong? Maybe they're not. Not in this case. I wouldn't know. I have no idea. And it's hilarious nonetheless. Oh, so happy, so merry this Christmas. I keep saying that. I keep saying that, but I suppose the best way to remain warm is just with unending rage. It will not be stopped. I mean, we don't need to get that mad, right? But it's current events. Current events are usually pretty spicy, I should say, I suppose. We have some stuff about uh, the usual kind of drama, but we're gonna get into more heavier topics in, I guess, the second half. So, yeah, it's gonna be one of those days. Oh, jeez, man, everything hurts. It feels like I'm not moving at all. I feel so extremely cramped, but I don't know why. Uh, okay, I'm looking at the stuff. We have music, right? What about a playlist? Pokemon Winter music when you look tired. Take a little break. What's that lining? What's that lining? I hope not. Ah, jeez. If we actually get lightning storm now. Oh, that was actual lightning. Please don't. Please don't. I just don't want to stop stream just after starting. Not like this. It seems to be far, but oh, brother, what a disaster. What a disaster already. Jeez. Okay, let's get some music. I do be I do be tired here. And I guess I'm gonna look at the weather. I'm not sure. Please, no lightning. I don't like that. We didn't have any lightning on the weather report, okay? Do not screw me like this. Yeah, it doesn't say anything about lightning, just rain, which sure it makes sense. It's December. It's what, the 20th? Of course it's raining. Okay, hold up. I need to grab my phone for a second to properly check this. Ah, jeez, I hate doing this. I hate doing this. But I have to. Hold up. Where's my weather app? It doesn't say anything about lightning. You better not be annoying. You better not be annoying. I'm not even asking. I'm demanding. I'm demanding from the universe. Do not lightning bolt me. It's such a good spell, though. Such a good spell. Ah, jeez. God damn it. Hate when this happens. Not much I can do about that. I'm not the government. I cannot control the weather yet. I said it. Yet. It might happen at some point. So, okay. Where's everything located? Is this correct? I think it is. I mean, sometimes we just get, like, a little bit of lightning and then it stops. It just keeps raining. I hope that's the case. I've been mentioning this since the beginning, right? If it gets stormy, as in lightning stormy, I usually need to just shut everything down. I really lost the computer years ago thanks to a lightning bolt. It's not happening again. I guess it might be okay. Okay, let me hide this. And let me bring up the browser. Let us try to get through this if we can. I guess this is some sort of an update from the stuff we've seen recently. Which is interesting, but I'm still not sure what's going on here. So let's bring this up. So apparently, Nina Ling has been banned indefinitely on Twitch. She's saying she's coming back on the 26th, I think. I think that is correct. That means next Friday. I don't know about that. I've seen some screenshots. And when it's usually a temporary ban, it says this content is temporarily restricted or something like that. It didn't say that on her channel. We'll see. We'll see. To be fair, this individual has been committing crimes non-stop on stream, so I think a permaban is justified. Then again, we've seen other people also committing other types of crimes being rewarded by Twitch, so you never know. What a hellscape. Streamer Nilly has pushed back against claims that she's being permanently banned on Twitch, but the platform's own messaging has fueled the speculation that her suspension could be indefinite. Hey, just what he said, imagine that. On November 30th, footage from Lynn's Twitch stream went viral after showing her stealing items at a Target self-checkout. I mean, yeah, it's kinda bad. Sexual misconduct is also kinda bad, by the way. I know I'm downplaying it by saying kinda, but it's kind of part of the joke, I suppose. In the clip, she scanned cheaper goods while taking more expensive items, including steaks, without paying full price. I don't think this is related, but I don't have the tweet for this, and I still want to mention this. I've seen well, it was a tweet recently, as I said. It was like a short clip from people in the US going to places like, I'm not sure if it was Target, I think it was Walmart, and they would scavenge like the tickets on the trash bins. They would get one of those, going, get the same items, and then go out showing that ticket, being like, oh yeah, I already paid for this. What a disaster. What a disaster. Jeez, man. How does that happen? Well, you know, something about low trust society. I'm getting ahead of myself. As the reviews called her out, Look admitted to the theft and brushed it off, claiming Target isn't losing money. It is still a crime, though. That's no justification. I'm pretty sure you have more than enough money to buy at Target, right? I mean, they mentioned like $3.99. Now you have $5? Jen held up a pair of boots from the store and asked her chat to guess how much she paid. Answering $3.99 to imply she scanned a different item instead. Well, I didn't read the full context. I'm pretty sure you can buy a pair of boots for $50 or even $100, okay? No excuses. This incident led to Lim being banned from Twitch for the third time in just a matter of weeks, after previously being suspended for resourceful assault clips. It's not about assault rifles, okay? Clearly not. We talked about this before. Since then, she has not returned to the platform. Is Nina Ling actually permabanned on Twitch? Look, it's not often that I call for permabans on platforms, because even to this day, I do believe a lot of people can be redeemed. There are some creators that should be permabanned, not because I disagree with them, but because they keep committing actual crimes on stream, and not petty crimes at that. On December 18th, reports began circulating online, claiming that Ling's ban was permanent and that she would never be allowed back on Twitch. Ling quickly denied those claims on Instagram. Ain't no way, motherfuckers making shit up now. I see a lot of people criticizing this, and that's agreeable. Aren't you like some sort of Asian woman with those features? What are you talking like a black man? Oh, America! She wrote, accusing people of being obsessed with her, and insisting she will return. She also teased the idea of making a full trailer for her comeback. They followed that up with another post saying, wait till I'm back. Can't wait for them to be mad. We are not mad. We are disappointed. It's not the same. Oh, right now I could make a really nasty joke about being fatherless. I'm not gonna debase myself to that point. Asking fast to send her post about the alleged permaban. I mean, to be fair, Twitch doesn't communicate shit anyway. So even if it's permanent, her not knowing, it will be a brand. Twitch does not comment on individual form-brand actions, but the wording on Lynn's channel has raised eyebrows. When attempting to visit her page, users are met with the message, "This channel is currently unavailable due to violation of Twitch's community guidelines or terms of service." And are they gonna mention what I said before? Yeah, temporarily unavailable. I don't know if this is just jank. It could be just web jank. You never know, really. The specific notice is often associated with indefinite bans. Dr. Disrespect's channel, for example, displays the same message word for word. By contrast, suspended streamers like Rakai, which is this kid here, I just don't understand how people can watch this kind of content. Not because he's young, but I just don't see the appeal. I could be way more crass, but I think that's enough. Currently, just a different notice that reads, "This channel is temporarily unavailable due to a violation of Twitch's community guidelines or terms of service." Twitch has never publicly explained the difference between these messages. Living links is still unclear. For now, there's no confirmation on when or if Nina Lane will be allowed back on the Amazon-owned platform. I mean, I think it's pretty clear. Even though it's really unclear, I think it's pretty clear. I can probably explain this. Bear with me a little bit. Saying that she is... How did they mention it here? Permaban is incorrect. It is an indefinite ban. I think it's more than clear. Because they don't know how long she's gonna be banned. Maybe it's forever, maybe it's just, I don't know, 27 days, because who knows. In the case of Rakai here, he got a pretty normal suspension. Let's say, I don't know anything about this guy. Maybe it was a week, maybe it was a month, but probably when he got the email, it was like, yeah, you're gonna be out for this amount of time. It probably didn't happen to this woman. Is she coming back? It's possible. When she coming back? I have no idea. And I don't think she knows either. To be completely fair with you. That only makes sense to me. That only makes sense to me. So we'll see what happens with that. We'll see what happens with that. I do believe that having people committing crimes non-stop on social media is bad? Ooh, nuclear take! What am I saying here? And not only that, it's obviously that it should be more than enough reason for a permaban. I keep mentioning this guy constantly when we talk about this, right? But there was a pretty infamous, by the way, no more liners thus far, which I'm actually happy about. I will keep you posted. This way people can pinpoint my exact locations by the specific amount of lining I see. Is this Final Fantasy X? We don't know. I'm not dodging 200, okay? I'm not doing that. I did that once, it's not happening again. But there was... Get the stupid shit that I say all the time. There was this pretty infamous YouTube guy. I think he was some sort of Latino account. Not quite sure. He was like Peluche, something like that. I'm not sure, right? It sounds Spanish enough. And he would have videos of him beating animals. Literal beating animals to death. And people were like, okay, this is clearly not within the TOS of YouTube. We all understand that YouTube's TOS is mostly just jank. Especially nowadays. Foreshadowing. But the guy wasn't just getting banned. He was never getting banned. It took a insurmountable amount of effort from multiple content creators. I'm kinda thirsty, I guess. Let me take a quick sip here. To actually get that guy banned. It was like years ago. I remember the Quartering talking about this non-stop. You cannot have that kind of content, man. You cannot have that kind of content. Doing something like that, I'm pretty sure it's illegal in most reputable countries. Why would allow that to be shown on social media? I mean, banning people for that makes more sense than banning people for having the wrong opinions anyway, but who am I to ask? I've been seeing the huge wave of insane bans on YouTube. It's gonna happen to me at some point. And that's a big problem, because I'm just a tiny guy. So I don't have enough clout to shout out YouTube on social media to be like, hey, the fuck are you doing here, man? So, I'm actually considering Rumble a lot. Ah, shit. I said another word. I'm pretty sure saying Rumble gets you deboosted, demonetized, and into a lot of trouble, which is kind of funny, because to me Rumble means the shaky from the controllers, right? Is this Nintendo 64? I guess it could be, I have no idea. But seeing the current state of both YouTube and Twitch, I'm considering that quite a lot, because I'm not paying $5 for the Twitter. I guess it wouldn't be bad, but I just don't want it. I just don't want it, man. I'm a free-to-play kind of guy, you know me. So I guess speaking of YouTube, let us go to the next news. YouTube AI accused the banning channel for including business email in video description. Hilarious. Hilarious. I mean, I don't have the business email and the video description, but I do have the usual links to my other socials, as they say. So it's only a matter of time, as usual. It's surprising that I don't think I've seen anyone being banned from doing so on Twitch if they had their kick links. I think I do. Well, always living on the edge. Yet the automated moderation is under fire after a creator claimed he was banned for simply listing their business email in a video description. As 2025 draws to the close, creators have warned that AI-driven moderation enforcement isn't functioning correctly across the platform. They don't care. They don't care. This is gonna sound extremely racist, and maybe it is, but I've read enough about how Indians operate to not think this is just random. The YouTuber Enderman said multiple channels with hundreds of thousands of subscribers were wiped out overnight, arguing the decisions came from automated systems with no human oversight. Do not make the joke. Do not make the joke. Do not give them ammunition. In another viral incident, Spoken Jukes? I don't think I've seen this guy before. Had a video restricted after YouTube flagged his laugh as graphic content. The video was only fully monetized once the laugh was removed. What? I guess on one hand I'm kind of happy I'm not actually monetized on YouTube. With the kind of bullshit they say all the time. I see so much shit, it's absolutely insane. The things that come out of my mouth. I would never be monetized anyway. Who am I kidding? I swear YouTube say I shut down a live stream after mistaking a microphone for a firearm. But don't worry guys, AI is the future. Jesus Christ, what's going on here? Now YouTuber Voxel is sitting out at the platform, alleging their channel was terminated because of an email in their video description. Don't know if they're gonna mention it here. Spoiler alert, it was a Gmail address, which is even funnier, because of course they all belong to Google. Instead of the post, Voxel, who was banned for over 30 days, claimed that they finally figured out why they had been terminated. They said they redirected viewers to another site, which they never did. Also, having links to different sites, it's not against the OS. I don't know what they're talking about. If anything, this is a Twitch rule. Also, Gmail's not another site, so I don't know what you're talking about. But I know what is actually the case. YouTube AI have mistaken my business email for another site. How stupid can they be? Then again, I don't think this is just stupidity. It's mostly malice and laziness to some degree. In that email from YouTube, the platform claimed that Blackstone's account had been taken down for violating the site's spam policies, which include promising viewers something in video and redirecting them to another website. Okay, I do understand this ruling. I don't think this ruling is wrong, but it's extremely ironic. Do you guys remember? It's been a while since I've seen them, but do you guys remember those Telegram bots that were spamming from medium to big channels? Oh, if you follow this, you might win something good. I mean, are they wrong? No, You might, but it's not going to happen, right? Ironic, extremely ironic, because I don't think that was policed properly. It's the exact thing that can have triggered a YouTube AI moderation that wiped my channel wrongfully. Having email description is not against YouTube policy, the creator blasted. YouTube thinks my email is redirecting users to another site. Even if they are, it's still a Google site. Also, to be fair, at gmail.com is not a site per se, it's an email. But still continue to accuse YouTube AI of not knowing the difference between an email and a link. Yeah! Fix the mistake! The email in the description is not malicious practice, they exclaimed. It's fair and allowed. Just because it ends with .com doesn't mean it's a link, it's my email. And I don't think I'm gonna get people in hot water formation in this, but I've just seen bigger YouTube... Well, of course bigger YouTubers, but I want to mention bigger vtubers that may have like a company store or some sort of aggregated, this is associated, I'm not quite sure, some sort of partnership with markets so you can buy their merchandise. They have those links in the description, and I do believe that's fair. Okay, I just don't get it. This is just random BS at this point in time. Oh, we don't need to read this. We can just see it in real time. It's a nice banning users for including their Gmailing video. YouTube responded to the accusations claiming that the channel was terminated for a different reason altogether. But they never give you the actual reason. So what are you supposed to do? There's nothing you can do, actually. The channel was terminated correctly for violations that had nothing to do with the recent email, the platform said. They followed this by defending the recent moderation rulings, claiming the majority of moderation decisions they reviewed have been correct. That's a massive lie. Man, that's a massive lie. YouTube self-ultimately decides whether or not the ruling is correct or not. Ah, we have investigated themselves. Classic meme. Is this the FBI? I mean, it's from one side, maybe the CIA. When we make a mistake, we own it and work hard to fix it, they added. I've never seen such a huge amount of bullshit. What a lie! Did you make this lie? This isn't the first time the platform has defended its moderation policies. Earlier in December, the site defended terminating 12 million channels. Anyhow, 20.5 channels were terminated in Q4 2023 alone. So of course we have the tweet here. This is a full story. This site has no fear for clicks. I had to get certain and reach out to verify this before posting. So here are the facts. This channel was terminated correctly for violations that had nothing to do with their business email. The vast majority of content moderation decisions we've reviewed on X have been correct. When we make a mistake, we own it and work hard to fix it. Oh no. Community notes. Decided to reach out to YouTube for verification prior to posting, contrary to this claim. So we can all assume that everything else is just BS. This is a real person with a name, or just an AI bot responding from YouTube. What's the difference? What's the difference nowadays? Honestly, I have no idea. And I keep bringing this up, and I think this is somewhat important. There was that Twitter post, it was from like late November, I know I can bring it up. That was talking about how Indians operate. This thing about Izad, right? I'm not an expert or anything like that, and I'm not even quoting properly. But they were mentioning some stuff about how everything is just about some sort of honor system, some sort of face, but it's not like chivalry, right? It's about a facade. You need to look better than the other ones, and you need to use your power, even if it's cheating or killing, to achieve this. Therefore, it's not about being actually virtuous. Assuming everything here is correct, right? From what I'm seeing, I don't think it's incorrect either, so... Grain of salt. Massive grain of salt. So, of course, they're gonna steal, they're gonna cheat, and they're gonna lie. And, I mean, that checks out, right? Do not redeem! Sir, do not redeem! They are well known for being scammers. I mean, there's a lot of Indian people, so... Of course, even if the percentage is the same, when you have... I think they have more population than China nowadays, even. That's gonna be a lot of people. But I assume that is correct. And from what we're seeing of other people working with Indians, saying stuff like, yeah, you will try to explain stuff to them, and they will be like, oh yeah, I get it. They don't understand anything. They're just saying yes, because they have to say yes. Because that's correct to gain, like, Indian points, I suppose. And this here is also the same. What do you mean we made a mistake? We never make mistakes. We never make mistakes. And when we do, we own up to them. I've never seen YouTube owning up to their own mistakes. So of course, by their own logic, they would never make a mistake. But at the same time, I do have eyes, I do have ears, and I can parse, at best, or at worst, simple information. I've only seen YouTube making mistakes for the past, what, 10 to 15 years? Close to 10 years, I guess. So, when they say that these companies, that they must be full of Indians, keep acting through Indian principles, why are we surprised? Honestly, why are we surprised? An absolute disaster. An absolute disaster. And there was also a tweet recently about how Microsoft is like moving to India and investing billions in India. Good luck with that. Good luck with that. I had to deal with Indian people in tech since quite some time. Because as I've mentioned before, my area of expertise is Android dev. And especially back in the day, I'm not quite sure nowadays. Especially back in the day, if you want to look up tutorials, was a bunch of Indians. Were tutorials bad? I mean, some of them were okay. But there was also some real suspicious stuff out there. I'm gonna be real. It's not me trying to be racist, okay? It's me trying to be pragmatic, not even objective, but pragmatic about the things that I say. And we're seeing, once again, I keep repeating myself, but I think it's so obvious that it's painful, right? We've seen big companies like Google and Microsoft just full of Indians. I've just seen Microsoft. I don't have the Tweet app, but the news about Notepad in Windows 11 using an inordinate amount of RAM for some reason, despite RAM being such a precious resource right now. You're like, but it's Notepad. How difficult can it be? How about 3 to 4 times the RAM you need for WordPad? AI. The DNA of the technocrat, I suppose. Huh? Disgusting. I have more stuff about all the social media. It's actually good news. Don't get used to this. Otaku-friendly Twitter clone, Pomu. Partially revived after month-long suspension. Services limited to Japanese DL-side users. Kind of sad to see this. It's a necessary evil. The first thing that happened when this was open to everybody, Westerners being fucking idiots. So you know what? Good for Japan. Good for Japan. That's a Otaku-friendly social network service, Pomu, which I'm pretty sure you're meant to read as Pommy? Or something like that? It's not. This is not Romanized. Funny enough. Has returned to a month-long maintenance period. ASUS, the parent company of digital comic and game platform DL site, announced that the demo version of its new social media platform Pomu will be going live again as of December 18th. That already happened. It's the 20th. This May marks the end of the service's indefinite suspension, which was announced on November 10th, following a series of malfunctions and higher than expected traffic. Malfunctions was not wrong, because they were missing some obvious features, like, I think it was something like blocking and muting. I mean, it's kind of a Twitter clone, you need those, right? To avoid the obvious pestering. According to an official update, posted on DL channel, I want to read that as DLC, you're gonna blame me. geniuses! They're coming after me! In order to avoid high traffic spikes, the platform will only be accepting a limited number of users for the time being. Very reasonable. One of those based in Japan who have a video ID, previously known as a DL site account, and recorded accesses to DL channel, DLC keeps coming, before December 17th will be eligible to create the Pomo account. The management explained that they will be monitoring the situation while gradually working on a more stable version of the website that will be able to host a larger amount of users in the future. Normal stuff. Normal stuff. They are suffering from success. I guess they didn't expect this to be, oh my god, it's so good! But hey, if you're gonna suffer, let it be from success, I guess. However, it's currently unknown whether the service will be available on a worldwide scale as the beta version. Honestly, they probably shouldn't. They probably shouldn't. Especially when we keep talking about these strange Westerners that just hate Japan and everything that has to do with Japan, despite, allegedly, being anime fans. Oh, this anime is so good. If only it wasn't so Japanese. It's not a bug, man. It's a feature. That the friendly secret hangout place for otaku. Home is a social networking platform created as a more Twitter-like counterpart to the DL channel. DL sets form-based community network, with video game, anime, and manga fans and artists as its main target demographic. The platform comes with a handy R18 button, and that's pretty useful too. Then users quickly toggle between safe for work and not safe for work posts, a feature that helped it gain a lot of traction among both Japanese and English-speaking communities. I mean, they're not wrong, but maybe for the wrong reasons sometimes. Considering the DL site's long history of resistant pressure to censor their adult-themed works, God, we've been talking about this since what, late 2023? It's endless. It's endless! Many users have expressed high expectations for the level of freedom the otaku-friendly social network would offer. And from what we're seeing, it seems pretty okay thus far. Aside from the obvious shitting on money from the West. Whoops. However, after launching on November 5th, the platform only lasted for 5 days before being shut down for maintenance on November 10th. As the website was still in its beta version, it seemed like traffic from new users and visitors was greater than what the platform could handle, causing it to slow down, especially late at night. I mean, that checks out. After a 7-month-long maintenance period, it seems like the management was finally able to come out with a stable enough version that can handle at least a portion of the anticipated user base. If the current POM build ends up performing well with no major malfunctions, an official grand opening of the website might be coming sooner than we expect. That's pretty good. I mean, if we're talking about server-side stuff, optimizing is actually a lot of work. I know I mentioned this before, slightly, when talking about, I think it was the gacha game Crash, which is funny, because they say, oh, well, but these skills are not transferable, really. They kinda are, to be fair, but mostly the server-side stuff, if you can optimize that, that's valuable for literally everything nowadays. Most of the stuff is just online and server-side. And so yeah, it takes a lot of work, but I think it's important and good work. So hey, it's pretty nice. Enjoy the freedom, guys! The flag will rise for us eventually. I don't know about that. Too many antis, man, too many antis. It's truly disgusting. What do we have here? More... Starting to get a little bit into the meat and potatoes here, I think. To some extent, at least. Speaking of social media, I suppose, and speaking about the West shooting the bell, what about Twitter? Oh boy, what about Twitter? What did it do this time? Well, it's... Can't tie it to the government. Imagine my shock. X just did its privacy policy, stating that it will adhere to EU and UK demands to remove content. Lame and gay. It warns users you're responsible for the content you post or create. Now to 30 section for the rest of the world, only for the US. And I also think that the section 230 is under attack in the US. That shouldn't be the case. For those that don't know, the section 230, I'm not an expert, but I've been seeing information about this for the best part of a decade at this point in time. It's a special protection that social media platforms have in the US that they're not responsible for the content posted on their sites. They are not legally liable for the content as long as these platforms do not act as editors. The problem was, in the stream for the longest time, why people have been criticizing this section, is that platforms keep acting like editors while being protected by 230. That shouldn't be the case. They're going for the opposite solution. Oh, just get rid of it. No! The platforms should stop acting as editors, okay? If they're not legally liable about their content posted, shut up! Shut up! And sometimes, I mean, we've seen this clearly with the China virus through 2020 and 2021. They were just censoring stuff, and I'm like, okay, sure. To some extent, I might agree with adding those links just below the player that said, oh, well, this is just the official information we have about the China virus, and then link you the WHO or the UN or whatever. Okay, sure, I do believe that's overstepping, but it's not necessarily wrong. You keep banning people for talking about the goof, for thinking about current events, and to some extent, talking about history. I mean, World War II history. Look, they have to mention the funny Germans, okay? They were doing things back then. It's historical context. It's important to know. It doesn't mean they agree with them. What are we saying? That's the level. The level of absolute derangement, we say. And we have seen for a long time already. So what do we have here? Well, governing land disputes. We've updated our terms to clarify the choice of law, and courts use to resolve disputes apply to both current and future lawsuits. For instance, the EU, after states, I don't know what this is really, and the UK, we've added details about how long you or X have to stall a legal claim. Okay, that seems normal. Our enforcement provisions. We've updated our terms to explain that in some places, for example, the EU and UK, we may need to remove not only illegal content, but also content considered harmful or unsafe under local laws. I've seen that kind of content. It's just censorship. How many times do they have to mention this? Oh, look, in the UK, they just have the... and not just the digital ID, the other thing. The age verification law. I want to say it's COPPA, but I know that COPPA is the American law. Was it COSA? With a K? The Security Act for kids. First thing that we saw being censored. Oh, you cannot see this if you don't show your actual age, which, as we've seen, also doesn't work. Protests in the UK against, you know, immigrants committing crimes, which is reasonable. Whoops, I wonder why. Also, it's gonna be illegal content for these deranged parts of the world, like the EU and the UK. But it's just normal stuff. I've been seeing a lot of pro-EU propaganda recently. Oh my god, these people are deranged. Ah, but Europeans love this. They want to be a federation. Every single time they get a little bit of pushback. Blocked. See, everybody agrees. And the people that are blocked, they don't matter. They just don't matter. Oh, that's cool. That's cool, I guess. Surely that's not scary at all. I've seen people mentioning stuff like, this is my country. Europe is my country. Yeah, sure thing. London is my country. That was supposed to be like a joke line in a song. What are we saying? No, it isn't. No, it isn't. You fucking idiot. People in the EU have been killing each other for thousands of years. There has been some sort of unity in the past, what, 30 years at best? It's the same country. Fuck off. What are you talking about? What are you talking about? Look, there are really obvious, and most of them are historically based, grievances between countries. Because why wouldn't you? Okay, we've been at odds with these people for thousands of years. Ah, it's the same country. The same country? No. No, I refuse. I absolutely refuse. It's insane. And, as per usual, the most insane thing of all is having unelected bureaucrats wanting to govern a federation. How about you fuck off and go back to hell? Jeez, disgusting. Yeah, stuff about age and whatnot here. But, yeah, this is pretty much the thing. And I'm like, okay, okay, on one hand I understand it. They don't want to stop giving service to these regions, I suppose. Why do you guys keep kowtowing to deranged laws from deranged governments? I have no idea. I have no idea. The government has so much power. You would be surprised by the amount of power the government actually has. It's not a whole lot when you think about it. But then you keep looking at the UK, and you're like, are we sure this is not China? I can't believe this is not butter. China. Butter China. I have no idea. Both are yellow, right? I think China's a little bit more red than yellow nowadays. Excuse me. It's rough. Hold up. Yeah, that's rough. I was showing a friend of mine a short I found earlier today about the Yakuza 3 remake Q13. They completely changed a Urikiya's look. We can take a look at that on Monday. It's hilarious. He doesn't even look like the same character. He doesn't even have the same shirt. It's insane. But everything is insane now, so I don't know. What else do we have here? Well, we've been talking a little bit about AI. Let us keep talking about AI, shall we? Muslim name is new CEO. Firefox evolved into a modern AI browser. Oh boy. Everything will be AI and you will be happy. I mean, I don't know about happy. You will be free to be happy. If you're happy or not, that sounds like a you problem. You better be. Or else. It's hilarious. There you go. Mozilla Corporation has named its new CEO, replacing interim CEO, Laura Chambers. Anthony Enzo, that's an Italian guy, right? Has been named the new CEO of Mozilla Corporation. Anthony was SVP of Firefox from 2004 to July 2005, and then from July until now was the GM of Firefox at Mozilla. I don't know what GM means in this context. General Manager, I assume. It's probably not Game Master. That'd be funny, but I don't say it. He's writing a public message today, his first day serving as the new Chief Executive for Mozilla. People want software that is fast, modern, but also honest about what it does. They want to understand what's happening and have real choices. Mozilla Firefox can be the choice. Okay, hold up. This is not pre-read, but you mentioned fast and honest. And then you're gonna tell me it's gonna be AI. Bold. Really bold claim. Even companies share our strengths. People trust our brand. Firefox brings us global reach. Our teams now have to build reliable, independent software at scale, and our business model puts the user first. As Mozilla moves forward, we'll focus on becoming the trusted software company. This is not a slogan, it's a direction that guides how we build and how we grow. It means three things. First, every product we build must give people agency how it works. Privacy, data use, and AI must be clear and understandable. I mean, privacy and data use, sure. AI? Isn't this a snake here? You didn't mention anything about the AI before. Concept must be simple. AI should always be a choice. Okay, that's fair. Something people can easily turn off. People should know why a feature works the way it does and what value they get from it. See, I agree with this, but that's never the case with AI. Because even the people that run the LLMs don't understand AI. As from what I'm seeing, it's a strange mix between trying to copy patterns they see, RNG, and algorithms. So it's always gonna be a gamble. Well, always be gambling, I guess. What I'm trying to say here, with AI, is that it doesn't have an actual understanding of what it's doing. It's just trying to get... Let's say, as if it was... We've seen the clips before, right? We have these AI trying to make this model move, and you have like a human model, and then you see the range movement from the legs and whatnot, but kind of works, and you see the progression with iterations. It's something like that. It doesn't have a proper understanding of logic or physics or anything like that. It's just trial and error, which to me it's probably the least refined way to make progress. It could be worse, I suppose. You're actually making progress, I suppose, but it's far from exciting. That's why I do believe AI is a huge bubble. Because you're using a massive amount of resources just for trial and error instead of trying to make and refine algorithms on your own. It's not that surprising. I don't actually know how LLMs work. I'm just extrapolating from other tech companies that are doing making the exact same mistakes. I could be completely wrong. Second, our business model must align with trust. We will grow through transparent monetization that people recognize and value. And third, Firefox will grow from a browser into a broader ecosystem of trusted software. Firefox will remain our anchor. It will evolve into a modern AI browser and support a portfolio of new and trusted software additions. As mentioned throughout the news announcement post on the Mozilla blog. I have a bunch of comments. I'm not gonna look through them. It's more than 200, please understand. Something I find really funny about this is the fact that it's being a huge uproar. I don't think the uproar itself is necessarily wrong, but I think it's misguided or misaligned. Keeping them in check is always good, I will say. As some people have been saying on Twitter for the past months, always chimp out, always complain, it just works. But if these people are to be trusted, and I don't know if that's the case because Mozilla has been doing some strange stuff recently, as we've been saying. AI should always be a choice, and they have clarified, yes. The new AI feature kill switch, yes, it's supposed to be a choice. Well, they said it here, but then again, when you say that Firefox is gonna evolve to become a modern AI browser, it's understandable that people complain because people don't know what you talk about. I think the complaining here is within reason, because what does it mean to be a modern AI browser? Is it gonna be actually good, or is it gonna be a disaster like Windows 11? Let's be real. Let's be real. You're never sure because these people probably don't know what they talk about either, which also a little bit scary. AI has become some sort of a buzzword. Once again, I'm not truly an AI hater, but I do believe that these people that keep selling you AI as the huge next thing. AI is gonna be literally everything. You're gonna have AI in your manual vacuum cleaner. How many times can you mention this? I don't know. I still get away with it. It's gonna happen. It's an actual example. I saw the ad on TV. It's not a joke. It's not even a joke. I get tired because I'm like, okay, but how does AI help me vacuum clean better? Right? It was like a Roomba style, as I mentioned before. It makes sense. It's AI, it has better algorithm for cleaning, so it's more optimized. It uses less redundant movement, for example. Okay. Sure, that's within the realm of, logic. Something you can understand. And then you have this AI, I'm gonna call them AI fanboys on Twitter. And they're like, oh, look at this. This is gonna be the future. It's so good. It's almost perfect. And you see the video. It's an anime guy fighting some wolves. You're like, okay, but the guy's just jumping around. It's not proper fighting choreography, as I mentioned before. He doesn't have a proper understanding of physics, for example. And the guy doesn't even have, like, actual weapons. It's just, like, two lights coming out from his hands. Supposed to be, like, blades? It's really hard to tell. Also, the attacks are not connecting. The guy's just jumping around. There's no weight to the animation. I'm like, look, I understand AI, even generative AI, is getting better. It's probably gonna be used a lot in the future for actual audiovisual production. You show me this, I'm like, okay, this is useless. People are spending literal billions of USD on nothing. They are their worst advertisers, to be fair. But it's not surprising either, I guess. Speaking of AI, let us detour a little bit into the realm of video games. Because I've been seeing this, and I'm like, this is completely retarded. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know what you people are talking about. Okay, alright. So, from Games Radar, you know it's gonna be good. Wins one of these sites. As Clear Expedition 33's AI user surface amid banklings, Larian Divinity Lead says, we have good QA on leads. The first question is if the RPG will excellently shape with AI assets. Michael Dow says it's the same as when Photobashi makes it in. I think a lot of people complaining about the French game. And look, I understand the French hate, okay? I'm the first guy to hate the French. But you people are being extremely stupid. Let's be real. You people are so poisoned and you're so ignorant, you don't know what you're talking about. Because there has been some, oh, look at this. Don't score only one because it's AI you love. No, how did they use AI, right? I don't think they made the game just with AI. It's a guy typing in, come on, you funny AI, make me French RPG. That's how it happened. They were probably using AI to create, like, how do they call this? Like, maybe concept art and whatnot, to then make the actual art, right? Because it's way faster to have an actual artist. And of course it's gonna have mistakes, but since it's just concept art, it's not a big deal. Because those mistakes would never get to the final version anyway. Hilarious. Hilarious to me. There's also people being extremely pissy about anything that mentions AI. AI, it's all trash. People are like, you understand we're talking about AI in video games, right? Like how the NPCs work and move. What we called like CPUs or bots until not that long. Sometimes it was also called AI. It doesn't mean it's generative AI. These people are poisoned. When you go back to the Nintendo 64 and you play Super Smash Bros., the enemy moves, doesn't it? That's what we call an AI. It's not this AI, because this AI is not even actual AI, it's not actual intelligence. It's just impeding algorithms scrapping data. But the machine moves, right? If you go back and play Super Mario Bros. On the NES, the original one, the enemies move, don't they? And they have, sure, they have a pretty simplistic way of moving, but they have a logic to it. I guess the most complex enemy in the first game, what would it be? At the boss or like 2, right? They have a logic. That's what people mean when they say AI. I do remember back in the day, going through Final Fantasy V guides for the super boss. It was not necessary to be that so in depth, but I just found them. I was like, oh, look at the algorithm for the super bosses, how they work. It was like 8 lines of code. Like it was like 8 lines. So if it's the first turn, it's gonna do this. Every 5 turns, this is gonna happen. If not, 1/3 of this, 2/3 of this, something like that. Cool. Cool. That's it. Wow. But people are so poisoned, it's just insane. I was some people criticizing Kisunai. Oh, it's the first VTuber was AI. Now you fucking idiot. Now you fucking idiot. Oh my god. Pisses me off. See what I mean? I hate stupid people. Why do I do this to myself? Why do I keep looking at the stupid people? It's self-inflicted. I shouldn't complain. Then I still see Sven Vinke recently ignited an explosion of online drama after admitting the Divinity Maker had begun using AI in production. That doesn't mean anything really. He was adamant that the final game wouldn't launch with any content actually made by AI. Now the Steve's publishing lead has responded to fans worried about Divinity accidentally releasing with AI-generated bits, as was the case with Clear Obscurus Vision Studio 3 and The Elders. Okay, but you don't have a link for the French game. I keep clicking but nothing happens. So that's kinda funny. For context, Clear Obscurus Vision Studio 3's producer François Mévis revealed that the team did in fact use some AI, but not much. While making the Game of the Year winner per an Alpay's interview, it's been making the rounds on social media as of late. The fact that Clear Obscure shared with what seemed to be AI-generated art, which was clearly described by a patch, also research-faced. Even though game director Guillaume Brush insisted his team rejected the tag in creative contexts. I'm gonna say something here. I don't know if that's the case. It was probably a placeholder, and they forgot to change it because they saw something there. It's not the first time it happens. Using AI for placeholders during game dev is probably one of the most obvious ways of using it for great effect. Are you gonna waste your time making some placeholder? Or are you gonna have the AI do it? You're gonna have the AI do it. It's fine. Just to make sure everything works. Now let the Divinity's publisher director, Michael Dawes, being asked if the Baldur's Gate 3 developer would avoid the same fate if they were employing AI in the early phases of development. I mean, it's a tool, it's fine, I already explained, I don't need to go through that again. I know I repeat myself a lot, but I'd rather not do that. The same as when photovashing makes a thing, Dawes tweeted, referring to the thing that lets digital artists blend 3D assets with real photographs or textures, usually employed by concept artists and such, literally what I mentioned before. Not for red, by the way, it's just logic. I remember, I think, it was a hidden game that was including an actual photo of a dead guy. Fucking fortunate, I think I remember reading about that. Between a dead guy and the alternative, I don't know, man. We have good QA and leads. Mistakes happen even with QA. I've seen that. What that made me remembering was the time when Telltale's Batman, the enemy within, made a whoopsie and launched with an image of a real-world Russian ambassador who was shot and killed in 2017. Okay, I guess I need to ask. I don't know enough about how these dev cycles work. How do you have that photograph in the game? For what purpose? I don't know, it's a little bit strange. I think they're showing their political biases too, a little bit. Imagine that. Photoshop is a fairly frequently employed technique in game dev, but it's not one that often leads to corpses showing up in final products. So I'm not convinced that learning only options are between a dead guy and using data raises serious ethical and environmental questions. The ethical. The ethical, it's very much this, right? What this Walkman guy says. As long as the game is good, who cares? Use AI all you want, Samful. Expedition 53 was big. That's the end of it. That's the end of it. People don't care that it's actually AI. People care if it's quality or not. And oftentimes we've seen AI stuff being extremely low quality. That's the main problem, nothing else. So it shouldn't be surprising. Hold up a second. Good. But since Clear Obscure won a lot of stuff in the Game Awards, people are really busy about it. It's a planned game, it's an industry plant, and people are like, do you even understand what that means? It doesn't make any sense. It was a game that was extremely cheap to make. Because let's be real, making a game like this for what, €1,000,000? It's not a lot of money. It was either 1,000,000 or 10,000,000. Let me look that up. Obscure budget. Less than 10,000,000. I mean, for an indie game, it's a lot of money. But it doesn't look like you're usually in the game, right? It's a high quality game, no matter what you look at, how you look at it. And the game is good. The game has been quite acclaimed by the fans. And the game is not $70, it's $50. Why won't the industry put out a game that makes them look so absolutely bad? It doesn't make any sense. They're just saying shit at this point in time, I suppose. But we've seen some insane criticism, and we have justice to it for now. Think of the children, Expedition 33 fans. Insane, and we have this guy here. I have no choice but to accept Expedition 33 as a real JRPG, and since the slander is just calling its fanbase pedophiles for no reason. Strange. Strange world we live in. Yet here we are. Funny. Funny how it works. So I guess I might be buying Expedition 33 at this point in time. I don't know if I can actually stream it, which is really shameful. The game is kinda powerful from what I'm seeing. So that's a bit rough. So I would need to check. It's on sale right now. It's like 20% off, I think. This should be $40, but I can get it cheaper thanks to already owning Dead Cells. Because there's a Dead Cells Expedition 33 bundle, so I can just buy the bundle, which would be Expedition 33 for even cheaper than that. I double dip in sales. That's crazy. I'm not sure. I'm still thinking about it. I mean, it's still good money, right? It's still good money. If the game is that good, spending what, like 35, something like that, should be okay. Should be okay. The thing is, I was not planning on buying anything. I will need to check if I can actually stream it. I know I can play it without trouble, a minimum. Thing is, will I be able to stream it without everything collapsing? I have no idea. I guess now we have to play the fucking French game, huh? It's time to go back to Gallows region. Yay! How did that happen? Hold up. That's hilarious. That's hilarious to me. At the current state of games, I suppose. But the I speak doesn't stop here, I'm afraid. And every single time you see I'm like, but why? Why would you do this? You can use AI for so much useful shit, and you're doing this BS. Why? Shut the fuck up, I'm not subscribing. Sony files here a censorship pattern to make PlayStation games playable for all ages. This approach will allow players to customize what they see and hear, with the developers creating separate game versions. Surely this is a good change. Surely this is just gonna be a great mechanic for the actual creators. Nothing bad will ever happen with this. Sure thing. Sure thing. AI censorship. It's not something I want to say. But of course, it's gonna be used for that. After all, censorship has been a rampant problem, especially this past year. Sony has stepped up its push to future-proof PlayStation as it prepares for the next console generation. Recent system updates for the PlayStation 5 show incremental improvements. What about the games though? At the same time, Sony has begun testing technologies that could shape the PlayStation 6 era. One of the most striking developments comes from a newly filed patent focused on artificial intelligence and content censorship. The technology aims to make games adaptable to different audiences without changing their core design. I have a problem with this. I have a pretty obvious problem with this, because this is something we've seen for far too long. Without changing their core design. But the thing here is not what the audience says, it's what they actually make. That's always been the problem. We've seen this with games, even Japanese games, and other creations, I'd say. This was a big deal back when we were talking about, I think it was Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. It's been almost 2 years. I think that was February 2024, if I'm not mistaken. And they were mentioning, don't worry guys, we're not actually censoring anything. We're just censoring ourselves while making the game. And you're gonna tell me this is gonna fix that? No. What you see as the audience is never the problem. Well, it kinda is, right? Everything is related. But it's not because it's good for you. It's because you shouldn't be seeing that, okay? These people have determined that maybe this is a big no-no. So what is stopping them from doing so right now with this new technology? Not only that, but also, if I buy, let's say, PlayStation 6, how do they know I'm an adult? Do I need to dox myself? Why should I dox myself to Sony, of all people? It makes no sense. But if you see those clips from Klaus Schwab, I fucking hate Klaus Schwab. I hate the globalists. Now you understand why I have the team foil in the thumbnail on YouTube. Festivities? Good luck with that. Mentioning, well, you have to understand that going forward, privacy is gonna be no more. You need to get used to that. And I'm like, how about you shut your fucking mouth and get the hell out of here? If only it was that easy. But once again, I need to mention, okay, but isn't privacy one of those funny points in those things called the universal human rights? So much for those. Are we getting hot? Are we getting angry now? The best way to combat the cold. Baby, it's cold outside. From the Sun Interactive Entertainment on December 9th, the Battle Alliance and automated system that analyzes live game audio and video. Ooh, that's spicy. I wonder what's gonna happen with online games with this technology. Oh, you said another word. You're not allowed here anymore. On your Sony device, I mean. The processor then alters the content based on user-defined preferences. User-defined. Okay. This isn't this bad, I suppose. They designed the tool to work across multiple platforms, including rival consoles. Isn't that a conflict of interest? Because you could use that to completely fuck over your competition. I wouldn't allow this if I was the competition, to be fair. AI-driven content filtering. The pattern describes AI models that scan gameplay in real time. Scary. The system identifies content that users want to censor. Gay. If you want to censor it, just don't play it, you fucking idiot. It's not for you. Just move on. Being applies filters without interrupting gameplay. There was also a clip on Twitter recently. It was from the XAI account, I think. I never brought that up, it's been like a couple of weeks. Out there making new ads. And they were showing like a clip of some sort of American sitcom. I'm not quite sure which one. I want to say it was Friends, but I'm not sure. And suddenly it becomes this cheering scene when the character stops before getting into a car to show you directly a can of Coke. Not cocaine, if only. And I'm like, oh, that looks so jarring. That looks out of Futurama. It was supposed to be a parody, man. Not like this. And that's kind of worrying, right? Because such a thing begs the question, at least to me, what's gonna happen with the artist's intent? What's gonna happen if you go to the movies, for example, and you suddenly see a bunch of, oh look, brand placement through AI? You're gonna be like, okay, but that's gonna create huge inconsistencies. If you talk to a friend that also watched the movie in a different place and they had different ads, you watch different movies. Ah, but the content's pretty much the same. No, it isn't. No, it isn't. It's the same as the narrative with localization. Oh, but they say the same thing. No. they could mean the same thing, but they're not the same thing. Not in this case. What a disaster. What a disaster! We need a current talk effect. We need to go back to monkey. According to the filing, artificial intelligence models are disclosed to customize audio-video content. This video game content based on user-provided content filtering parameters. I also wonder how much this is going to lag. If the only can mean offensive language, oh, not the offensive language. Can blur, hide, gore, and nudity. This may also remove scenes entirely. Ah, isn't that funny? In some cases, it can replace censored content with AI-generated alternatives. So you're playing different games. At this point, you're just playing different games. This design allows the second processor to handle the censorship work. That setup reduces strain on the main system. It also enables the AI to react quickly during gameplay. What am I looking at? Ah, look at this. We have a second processor for censorship. What? Oh my god, this looks like taking out from some sort of cyberpunk dystopia, but we never get the cool stuff. You're never gonna get the cool stuff. You're gonna be a serf for the technocrats, and you're gonna like it. And if you don't like it, that's a you problem. My goodness, this is dire. Look, I understand that you might find content that's objectable in media. You know what we do with that? You cope, and then you move on. If you find it egregious, that piece of work was not for you. Good luck. Better luck next time. But sometimes, right, when they mention it here, gore and nudity, it's done with a purpose, right? Oh, look at this, it's so bad. Yes, of course it's bad, because it's meant to depict something that's bad. The same shit that we saw with Golden Slayer back in the day. Ah, look at this. Look at the first episode. Oh, it's so graphic. It's all about the struggle to snuggle. Because, oh, God forbid you say the word rape, I guess. And I'm like, okay, but if they want to show you that the goblins are some of the worst creatures to walk around in this series, of course they're gonna commit the worst crimes. How is this? How is this something new? How do we not understand this? It's insane, and of course it's insane, because for these deranged people, showing something means you work with something instead of being okay. No, I'm showing you the inhuman monsters are being human. Hello? Absolutely insane. Absolutely insane. Built for customization, sure thing, pal. The pattern places strong emphasis on user control. Players can set their own content parameters. Decisions determine what the AI filters or replaces. I mean, in the beginning, you will know, in the moment at least, if Sony is changing stuff that they find objectable. Ah, they would never do that. I mean, there's no reason for that, unless they are politically driven. And I do feel that most of these companies are, so we'll see. This system alerts players before sensitive content appears. Oh, look, a big no-no! What about the shock factor? Jesus Christ. People are being so pampered, it's depressing. You also notify it during playback. You can choose whether to remove the material or replace it. Some describes the technology as flexible, players can adjust preferences at any time. I'm not against mods or anything like that, but this just seems like just censorship for the sake of it. Oh, God forbid we show something being too real. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe you will finally understand the crimes that are being committed in real life. And maybe you will open your eyes and be like, holy moly, what's going on here? Yes, it's a reference to the UK. But not only the UK. Players announced that the system works across the most major computing ecosystems. That compatibility opens the door for adoption beyond PlayStation hardware. Technology could reshape how developers approach content ratings. Don't think it's developers here, but I suppose so. AAA titles may allow optional censorship layers instead of separate builds. That shit could expand their audience reach. Separate builds, Lumao. This hasn't happened in a long time. If it has to be censored, everything is getting censored. Everyone is getting censored. And you're gonna like it. But China doesn't like this. You know what? It's not China. Since China doesn't like it, nobody likes it. So censor for everyone. Enjoy. Enjoy the slap. The system will not target average adult players. Lumao. We'll see about that. Instead it focuses on parents, younger audiences, and content creators. I hate to say this, but I can see a use case for content creators here. Younger audiences? That seems, as usual, a parenting issue. If you're a parent and you have like a 14-year-old, why are you buying them an 18 plus rated game? Maybe you shouldn't. It's right there, it's in the box. It shouldn't be this difficult. Streamers could avoid the monetization risk without disabling gameplay entirely. That's also saying a lot about the monetization. But I can see the use case. I guess. Yes, with heavy adult themes may still pose challenges. If the game has heavy adult themes and you want to censor it, you will have nothing or a completely different game. Age rating, despite being draconian in recent times, it's really useful. If you have a game like GTA 6, just like they mention here, that rely heavily on mature content, it's probably gonna be 18 plus, for obvious reasons. Why you, as a parent, are buying such a game to your young teenager, as I mentioned before, let's say 14. You shouldn't, you're a trash parent. You need the government to burn for you. You need these tech companies to burn for you. You don't hate these parents enough. You don't hate them enough. And sure, these companies sometimes are deranged. But you don't hate these parents enough, because it's thanks to these parents being absolute trash, completely useless parents, that we are in this predicament. Are you brave enough to hate them? I'm brave enough to pick the mic, I guess. Sorry about that. It gets distorted a little bit. It's not on purpose. I get passionate when I talk about this. Please understand. It's not that the age rating in the game box it's hidden. I could pick one of my 20 boxes I have of games near me and be like, okay, what's the age rating on this? And I can tell you exactly what. You know what? I'm gonna pick something. What do we pick here? Gotta pick something from the Wii. Hold up. But you know what? I'm gonna pick something from PC. I'm gonna pick Devil May Cry 3. Capcom and Ubisoft. Lumao. Hello? And it says... Oh, jeez. I bought this for $3 back in the day. Lumao. It's secondhand. It says 16 plus because violence. Wow. That's cool. Oh, so it's on the front. Also says 16 plus. Funny. Funny how that works. I could pick other games, and they would also tell me. How do I know this? But parents don't, because parents don't give a fuck about kids anymore. That's the current state. That's the current state. If you're just gonna have kids for the sake of it, I cannot believe I'm saying this. Stop having kids. Okay? Stop having kids. And I don't think having kids is important. But if you're gonna act like an absolute clown, stop it. You're just a headache. And that's exactly what I was saying, except that extensive filtering could significantly alter the experience. Wow, shocking. Why is the young people playing GTA 6? No clue. Even so, Sony appears focused on accessibility rather than restriction. Parent signals an effort to make more games playable across age groups. Also suggest a broader role for AI and console level moderation. Sony has not confirmed when or if the technology will reach consumers. Buttons of still remain experimental. Still, the filing offers a clearer look at how Sony envisions AI shaping future gaming experiences. And only now I just realized what all of this is about. Only now I just realized what all of this is about. An effort to make more games playable across age groups. This is just a big attempt from Sony to try and get more sales from games. I don't understand how it took me so long to realize. And of course it is. Because they're not selling enough. So they have to do the Dan Clancy special. Maybe we need to, despite being against the rules, we need to keep appealing to younger and younger people to get into our site or get into our games. Look, if Stitch is 13 plus, it has to be 13 plus. When you had the CEO mentioning younger people like 8 or 9 that we can get from places like TikTok, that's not a good deal. And when you have these game companies saying, well, you know what, maybe we should be selling these 18 plus rated games to younger generations, that's also not good. Yeah, quite literally breaking the law. Well, breaking the rules, I should say. I don't know if it's actually the law. To some extent, I'm pretty sure it is. Truly disgusting. And speaking of censorship, we're never gonna get into the heavy stuff. We have about an hour. We can go overboard. I know I have something that's really interesting, but it's pretty long. So you will have to bear with me a little bit here. Speaking of censorship, I am once again surprised by what's coming out of the UK. This has to be one of the most insane things I've ever read. And I don't say this lightly. You know the kind of things I read. UK to encourage Apple and Google to put nudity blocking systems on phones. What are you talking about? What is going on? I have no idea. It's truly insane. Government says nudity detection algorithms in iOS and Android, report says. Imagine you're in the office, working your 9 to 5, like a normal member of society, and then your wife sends you a spicy pig because she wants, you know, she wants to have a lot of fun when you get home. Now, all the government knows about it, and it might get censored, despite being completely illegal. I cannot believe this is not China. The UK government reportedly will encourage Apple and Google. Encourage, by the way. You will do this or else. I bet it's that kind of encouragement. To prevent phones from displaying nude images, except when users verify that they are adults. I'm having a stroke here. I am having a stroke. I'm not an expert in many things. I only know a little bit about some things, like most people, I suppose. Can you, as a minor, buy a phone and get internet service? I actually have no idea. We could ask the AI. Can minors get an internet connection contract? No, this is the AI, so bear with me. No, minors under 18 generally can legally enter binding internet contracts on their own. Their parents/guardians must sign for them, as minors lack full contractual capacity, making such agreements unvoidable or requiring parental consent for validity. Added through specific parental consent forms, providers usually requiring adults' involvement for services like internet, reflecting that parents are responsible for ensuring safe, balanced digital use. Even the AI agrees with me. Am I in the wrong? I don't think so. So, what is going on here? It's kind of difficult to put what I'm thinking into words, but it seems truly insane, right? And of course, it was not just having age verification for websites. It was not enough about having age verification for a bunch of different things. Now, they will control every aspect of your life, because you will not be looking spicy stuff as a minor. It doesn't matter what you try to do. That's what happens when you let the government parent the kids. Everything and everyone gets screwed. The forthcoming push for nudity blocking systems was reported by the Financial Times today. The report said the UK won't institute a legal requirement. For now, it's coming. Yeah, now it's coming. But asking companies to block nude images could be the first step toward making it mandatory if the government doesn't get what it wants. Wah! I get what I want! You know what's gonna happen? You know what's gonna happen with this? Yeah, I've been talking about this for so many years. It's insane. People are not gonna be using original versions of Android and iOS. They will just have their own versions. They will take a bunch of stuff out. Maybe they will get a bunch of stuff in. Because they will not comply with this. Because why would you comply with such draconian ruling? But you have to show me you're an adult. Okay, Curious Starmer, do you want to know exactly how many times I jerk it today? Is this what you want? You psychopath! That sounds a little bit gay on his part too. What can you say? The UK government wants technology companies to block explicit images on phones and computers by default to protect children, with adults having to verify their age to creating and access such content, the FT report said. Ministers want the likes of Apple and Google to incorporate nudity detection algorithms into their device operating systems, to prevent users taking photos or sharing images of genitalia unless they're verified as adults. Did you know that sharing those kinds of images as a minor is already illegal? That's kind of problem I have with law nowadays. Law cannot be preventive, can always be reactive. I don't care what you say, it cannot be preventive. Because then it becomes draconian. It happens every single time. And just like this. Is this Minority Report with Tom Cruise? And now it's not that cool. If the UK gets its way, operating system like iOS and Android would prevent any nudity being displayed on the screen, unless the user has verified they are an adult through methods such as biometric checks or official ID. What's gonna happen if you're an artist and you make that spice on your own? I wonder. I have to wonder. Because even if you're a minor, you have the freedom to throw what you want. It's your free will. It's your God-given free will. It's gonna be hilarious. It's gonna be hilarious. Child sex offenders would be required to keep such blockers enabled. It's only for offenders, but it's coming for everyone. Please understand. You know, just in case. You have nothing to hide, right? Yeah, that's why I want you to get out of my business. Home Office is initially focused on mobile devices, but the push could be expanded to desktops, the FT said. To desktops, Lamau! You fools! You fools! I keep saying this, and I'm always justified every single time I say this. Especially from the UK, the government is constantly 10 to 15 years behind, tech-wise. Do you think people cannot take that out? People are actually fixing Windows 11, taking all of the AI bloat out of the system. And you think they're not gonna stop this? Sure, keep telling yourself that. It might be annoying to do, but it will happen. Also, how are you gonna afford this? If you use something that's not Microsoft, you could be using Linux. You could be using your own custom fork of Linux. What are they gonna do? Well, you can wait for the Gestapo to come home. Government officials point out that Microsoft can really scan for inappropriate content in Microsoft Teams. The report said, Is this about that stuff with inappropriate content that had like 50-50 chance of being wrong? Yeah, that's not a fair rate, that's just gambling. Always be gambling. That's what the government said. The UK's Home Office is expected to encourage companies to introduce such controls as part of its strategy to tackle violence against women and girls. Wait announces the initiative in the coming days, the FT said. You want to tackle violence against women and girls in the UK? Boy, do I have a solution for you. Stop immigration. Whoa! You cannot say that, that's racist. Isn't it my fault that the immigrants are overwhelmingly more violent than the homegrown Brit-bongs? I don't think it is. I don't think it is. It doesn't have an easy fix. But you have to ignore the easy fix button, okay? People familiar with the matter say that officials have explored making such controls a mandatory requirement for devices sold in the UK, but have decided against such an approach for now, the report said. Okay, sure, it may be a mandatory requirement for devices sold in the UK. What if I buy a device in the UK? Assuming I live in the UK, which thankfully is not the case, it's probably coming here too. So I'm just bracing for impact. What if I was living in the UK and this was enforced? Okay, I buy the device and that thing is enforced. Sure. Is there anything stopping me from completely changing the device I bought? Let's say that's gonna be, I don't know what's the current Android version, it's like Android 11, something like that, right? Let's say this is coming with Android 12. We're making stuff up here, as an example. And I buy the phone. It has the Android 12. And I'm like, okay, but I don't like it. I don't like it. And I decide to format it on my own and install my own custom Android 9 version. What's gonna happen with that? That's not criminal, but it's gonna get you in trouble, I bet. In the long run, it's gonna happen. The push for device level blocking comes after the UK implemented the Online Safety Act. I was also, yeah. Allow recurrent porn platforms and social media firms to verify users' ages before letting them view adult content. The law can fully prevent minors from viewing porn, as many people use VPN services to get around the UK age checks. They will try to ban VPNs to make no mistake about it. Government officials may view device-level detection of nudity as a solution to that problem, but such systems will raise concerns about user rights and the accuracy of the nudity detection. I mean, I would say the user rights is the main concern here, but yeah, also that detection being kind of jank. Nothing new, to be fair. I wonder what... oh, excuse me. I wonder what's gonna happen if you have, perhaps, perchance, some sort of strange, dare I say, tools to bypass these restrictions. And I'm not talking just about VPN. There's more stuff that you can use. We'll see. We'll see. It will be criminalized at some point. You will kowtow to the government, or else. No. You cannot get me. Age verification battles in multiple countries. Oh boy, yeah. And this is coming. Apple and Google both provide optional tools that let parents control what content their children can access. Are the parents not more involved into their kids' lives? The governments can argue to mandates on privacy grounds, as they have in other venues. When Texas enacted an age verification law for app stores, Apple and Google said they will comply, but warned of risk to user privacy. A lobby group that represents Apple, Google, and other tech firms that sued Texas, attempt to prevent the law from taking effect. They then imposes a broad censorship regime on the entire universe of mobile apps. Do you think that's not the point? Lumao. Sure thing. There's another age verification battle in Australia. Australia! Where the government decided to ban social media for users under 16. Company said they would comply, although Reddit issued the Australian Friday in a bid to overturn the law. Where Reddit is part of the good guys. You know this is insane. You know this is absolutely deranged and nothing makes sense anymore. Apple did zeros of thought the UK demand that it create a backdoor for government security officials to access encrypted data. They're getting too cocky. The government is getting extremely cocky, especially in Europe. And I say Europe, not the EU. I say Europe. The continent. They need to get real for a second. Do you really think you understand the bare minimum of technology to actually talk about this? You people have no idea what you're talking about. It's insane to me. The Trump administration claimed it convinced the UK to drop its demand, but the UK is reportedly still seeking an Apple backdoor. Why is the government getting into the business of companies from abroad? I wouldn't know. These devious little creatures getting up to mischief. In other case, the machine website Imgur blocked access for UK users starting in September, while facing an investigation over its age verification practices. Apple faced a backlash in 2021 over potential privacy violations when it announced a plan to have iPhones scan photos of CSAM. Apple ultimately dropped the plan. Why would you do that? That seems a little bit suspicious to me. And one of the arguments I've seen to defend this was, but you have to understand, nothing is getting stored. That's a lie. We know that's a lie. Because every single time they say something like that, it's actually getting stored. Do you remember the tea and coffee apps? Do you remember the UK government falling for this? Yeah. Yeah. I know what I'm talking about, but they don't. Which is kind of funny. I'm not in the government. I will never be in the government like this. I'm too skilled, I'm afraid. But if you're looking at this, and you think this is completely deranged, and it is completely deranged, make no mistake about that, and you're laughing at the British people, look at these fools. Be careful, because this is also coming for you. It's coming to the EU, it's coming to other parts of Europe, it's coming to the US, it's coming to Canada, it's coming to Australia, it's coming to New Zealand. It's not about security. It's not about, think of the kids. I wish they thought of the kids a little bit less. It's always about control. And people, especially nowadays, will sell their soul to the devil, quite literally, for a little bit of protection. Because of the kids. That is a state of affairs, I'm afraid. God, I need to blow my nose. I'm getting so stuffy. It's cold, it's humid, please understand. Give me a second. By the way, no more lightning. I guess we actually got lucky this time. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. Fuck me. Not a big fan of the government, that's for sure. What a disaster. If they think they can control technology, they are in for a rude awakening. They haven't been able to stop piracy. Why do they think they can stop anything? They can't, they just can't. Just a waste of resources. Because once again, they want to make everything just preventive. It can't be preventive, I'm sorry. That's not how it works. And Now moving on to a different topic. I've seen this past week or week and a half a lot of talk on social media and different articles about men, young men, and what the fuck is going on in society with young men and whatnot. So that's what we're gonna get into right now. This was actually something that I had for last week. We ran out of time, I'm sorry. Happens sometimes, okay? This from Vox. Traditional gender roles won't get men what they want. Men search for meaning is everyone's problem. I'm pretty sure it's written by a woman. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be absolutely insane. So let's try to get through this. It's... shit, it's kinda long, yeah, that makes sense. It's fine, we can go overtime a little bit. We can overtime recently a lot, haven't we? It's fine. For years now, falling birth rates have been a subject of alarm, with most of the discussion focused on women. The factors preventing them from having kids, whether mothers can balance work and family, if feminism has led women astray. I mean, yeah, you can just say economy and society, both will be an easy way of saying so. But what about men and what they think? Demographers focus on fertility trends have largely ignored men's attitudes toward gender. It's a red flag already. Caregiving and relationships. We have far less data on men's perspectives than women's, and even less on how those viewpoints shape outcomes. I wonder why? Because nobody cares, right? That's the problem. But men do have opinions on these topics, but if you voice them, they're gonna call you mean names. Even if we haven't examined them all that closely. American men are more likely to see falling birth rates as a problem, for example, also more likely to want to return to traditional gender roles. I'm gonna give you a spoiler here. Traditional gender roles, despite however much you want to bitch and moan about it, are derived from biology. And that's the correct evolution of humans. You have humans, and then you have society. It's not you have society, and then you have humans. No. You have these traditional gender roles because they're optimal, not only for survival, because they also appeal to you. Partially because of survival, I guess. Nearly 6 in 10 men favor such a return, according to recent polling from the 19th news. I've never seen that before. Compared to just 4 in 10 women. I mean, 4 in 10 is not a small number either. Among Republican men, that figure stood at 87%. 13% too low, some would say. These attitudes aren't just showing up in polls, they're shaping policy and discourse. A growing number of conservatives have started to publicly lament that women's equality may have been reached too far, with some calling for an end to no-fault divorce, or suggesting it's time to get rid of women's right to vote. Okay, a lot of people mention repeal the 19th, and when you say what kind of things women vote for, you're like, why are you voting for something that's bad for you? Why do you keep voting for extreme immigration when they keep pillaging and raping? That's a bad idea. That doesn't sound good. No-fault divorce is a big problem because it incentivizes bad women to use it as a weapon against men. That's why many men, especially nowadays, are so dejected with marriage. Because they're gonna call you, I don't know, just abusive or something worse. They're gonna divorce you, and they're gonna get the kids, they're gonna get the home, they're gonna get a huge paycheck every single month. That's not balanced. That's not balanced. That's the problem. And women's equality here, being reached too far, it's kind of a poisonous statement in my opinion. Of course, equality is not bad, but there's always a tinge of propaganda here, right? Because for far too long, the elites, it's been the elites. You can look back, it's been the elites. They have convinced women of, you have to realize yourself as a strong, independent woman that doesn't need no man. You need to go out there and be a career woman. And sure, that's for some women. I wouldn't say that's for a lot of them, but that's for some, and that's fine. The problem is when you try to convince every single woman this is the case, then you're completely destroying economy. Because you have a lot of workers. And when you have a lot of workers and about the same amount of jobs, that means you have a really big imbalance in offer and demand. So that means that the wages plummet. That's why now you need both mom and dad working to try to have a single kid, which was never the case like 30, 40 years ago. That's the problem. It's actually getting worse. Wages are going further down thanks to unlimited immigration, right? If you have a country that has, let's say, potential 10 million workers, that creates a balance. In suddenly, you have an extreme downpour of possible workers, and now you have 25 million or 30 million possible workers. Yeah, that's gonna affect wages in a negative way by a lot. It's a huge imbalance in offer and demand. It's basic economics, okay? I'm not a huge sage about society or anything like that. It's just thinking a little bit about it. Even the New York Times, a mainstream and liberal publication, recently ran a segment titled, "Did Women Ruin the Workplace?" Discussing whether women have made professional culture too emotional and serious. Yes. I'm gonna be real, yes. The most stupid stuff I've seen during work has been from women. In a deranged way. Like, okay, why is there such a huge drama now? Okay, it was a little bit mistake. Nobody cares about this. Literally nobody cares about this. You're making a huge mountain out of a nothing burger. Please, can you shut up and we move on? That was my direct boss. So, yeah. Yeah, I don't think it's being a net positive in general. Since the veil like men and masculinity have gotten plenty of attention already, and there has certainly been reticence on the left to center men's desires at all. They can't. They just can't. They are slaves to intersectionality. And if you have men, they better be gay, they better be minorities, at the very least. And you have to get them because gay and minority, not because they're men. Being a man for the left is just a detriment. It's not hard to understand that it's not hard to understand these observations. Men have been prioritized for most of human history and still dominate positions of power. What did I tell you? A woman writing this, of course, it's gonna be this way, right? It's not that men have been prioritized for most of human history. It's that you don't understand how women have been protected for most of human history. That's the problem. You haven't seen the sacrifices that men have done through human history. And if they dominate positions of power, it might be because such positions are a good fit for the average male brain, and two, which is most common nowadays, they have to work for that. So many CEOs are men. Yeah? How many women actually have the correct traits and experience to reach those roles? Not a lot. Which is fair. It doesn't have to be a 50-50 of everything. It's more nuanced than that. They will never understand this, though. But understanding men's attitudes remains essential. Everyone wants identity and purpose. For many men, these basic needs can manifest through a desire to feel masculine, and so their attitudes toward gender and caregiving are shaped by these deeper beliefs about what it means to be a man. It's not a deeper belief. It's derived from biology. These impulses are animalistic in nature, okay? Everything here comes from basic hormones. It's just that simple. That happens because of testosterone. How is this surprising? This is well known. But then again, here I am, saying shit that should be well known, but what? Whoa, what a discovery! It's not a discovery. If caregiving is seen as overly feminine work that diminishes masculinity, men will resist it. No, it's not because it's seen as overly feminine. It's because it doesn't appeal to most men. That's the problem. Well, it's not even a problem, that's the thing, I suppose. It's that easy. For anyone who cares about gender equality, Lamau, about women being able to find partners they want, or about people who want families being able to build them, ignore what men think and need guarantees failure on every front. Women being able to find partners they want. I want to say I know where she's coming from, but it sounds really suspicious. It's not just about chores. When it comes to gender equality in babies, activists and politicians have long argued that more of the first will lead to more of the second. Okay, are you gonna believe the government? It says bit of faith to the lies. Or as a former Tory minister in the UK once quipped, feminism is the new natalism. What do you mean by this? Demonstrably untrue. The optimistic theory was that if women stepped up, and egalitarian policies like paid leave became more widespread, birth rates would rise. No! You absolute fucking idiot! If you're working because you need to be working because the economy is fucked, having a kid is gonna be a detriment for that economy. Because A, you can't work or not work as much, and B, you have to spend money on the baby. Feminism is not the new natalism, it's the opposite. It's anti-natalism. By design. We're the ones that keep pushing for abortions. About like 20% of Gen Z being killed through abortions. I think that's the correct number. That's insane! That's insane! Of the Asian populations, you don't have kids. And the kids that you could have, you're killing. Jesus Christ, you sound like a fucking Catholic activist. There's some truth to this, in the sense that research suggests a lack of gender equality makes the birth rate fall even faster. What do you mean by a lack of gender equality? How's the economy? How's the economy in this inequality? Today, women with economic independence and less social pressure to marry are more likely to remain single than to settle for partners they don't trust to be supportive. So doesn't help that women always want to... Not always, but the common trait in women, they want to marry up, right? Hypergamy, as the correct term is supposed to be said. So you will have more resources, so you have higher chances of having more kids and the kids to prosper. You cannot really do that nowadays. Well, you can, but it's much more difficult in comparison. It used to be that women felt like they had no other choice. Like, maybe this guy's not great, but he's the best that's going to come along, said Patrick Brown, a family policy analyst at the Conservative Ethics and Public Policy Center. But now, women are willing to stay single if they don't meet somebody who matches their criteria. I've seen their criteria. It's very much impossible. 6 inches, 6 feet, 6-pack, 6 figures. 6 passions, why not, right? That's an extremely limited amount of people, from what we've seen. Also, something that doesn't help is that women can have these extremely crazy criteria because other women keep saying, but you are a thing. So of course, you can have another thing on your side, and you should have another thing. And then you're like, okay, sure. It's not gonna work when you're actually like barely a 4. I'm sorry to tell you this. Not every people is created equal, okay? Not every person is created equal. I guess that'd be better said. Also doesn't help to all of this how there's huge competition nowadays, right? Back in my day, it was way before my time, okay? I'm not that old, I'm not 60 yet. But let's say, back in the 60s, your options for dating were usually what was around you. Your village, your town, if you were fancy pants, your city. And that was it. Nowadays, you have to compete not only with the entire country thanks to these strange dating apps on social media, but even internationally. So finding someone is actually extremely difficult thanks to this. And since most people who have kids these days desire long-term, committed relationships, may have failed to demonstrate that be good partners face lower odds of having kids at all. Yeah, but I guess this is to some extent foreshadowing. If you have the society against you, it's gonna be really difficult to have a proper career and have proper resources. So that's gonna be a detriment if you want to have kids. Telling women to stay home isn't guaranteed they'll have more kids, either. Because in most countries, women who work are more likely to have children than those not employed. said Trill Lapicard, a sociologist at the University of Oslo. This is true even when their partners are also employed. It's so reductive, it's so annoying. It's not about staying home. It's about the state of the economy. The economy. If you marry a guy and the guy makes, I don't know, let's say $300,000 a year, you don't need to work, probably. You can stay at home and you can have a lot of babies. But if you don't work and your guy makes 70,000, might not be enough to have kids. That's exactly what's happening. But they're trying to tell you it's society. It's not society, it's economy. Most of the problems can just go back to economic policy. And I don't know much about the economy, but I know that shit is fucked. Because nobody has any money. And prices keep ramping up. Especially RAM. In South Korea and Japan, where women are expected to nearly all the domestic labor and must navigate workplaces that heavily penalize motherhood, fertility rates have imploded. How's the economy in Japan? It's completely fucked. South Korea's birth rate hit 0.75 children per woman in 2024, the lowest in the world, while Japan's dropped to 1.15. In similar trend exists across Southern Europe. In Italy, Spain, and Greece, where traditional gender norms remain strong, fertility has sunk to between 1.1 and 1.3. What all of these countries have in common? A completely fucked economy. I remember, like, 10 years ago, when Greece was about to be bankrupt. Do you guys remember Varoufakis? I remember Varoufakis. And he ended up being a nothing burger. What a shame. But he had the gusto, I suppose. It's not about gender roles, it's about the economy being completely fucked. That is also someone's... well, I don't know about these countries, right? But some of the countries where this shit happens are extremely liberal, dare I say. This pattern show up in broader data as well. In 2025, a study analyzing over 40 European countries found that women increasingly want men to share childcare and housework equally, while men believes that women should handle the unpaid domestic work have remained largely unchanged. I mean, you keep saying unpaid, but to some extent that should be paid through the husband's wage. It should be enough for the family. I know I'm being extremely idealistic here. Okay, I understand. I am the first to say that even though you call myself a pragmatic guy, extremely idealistic. But the idea here is, if you want to say traditional gender roles, to have mom at home, taking care of the home, taking care of the kids, making the actual home, right? And the husband being out working 8, 10, 12 hours maybe. 12 is rough. 12 is rough. But working, they have enough money to keep all of the household and then some for retirement, vacation, all that stuff. That would be ideal. Thing is, economy is so fucked. You cannot do that. Thing is, that, I say, metagame appeals to the biology of both men and women. Men are the hunters. They're outside. They're hunting mammoth. Oh my god. Look at them. That's why they have some evolutionary social advantages, like being able to not think about anything for hours on end, because that's extremely useful for hunting. If you had to wait for prey to appear for hours when you're just sitting around with your mates, yes, you're gonna develop the ability to not think, or you go crazy and then you die. And extremely simplistic poo-poo humor, because you need to keep yourself entertained. Those are just easy examples, right? But funny ones at that. But I think it makes sense. The women, on the other hand, they have their own superpowers, dare I say, like being able to see more color, which is extremely useful for caretaking in general. If you see a difference in color in, let's say, ice, skiing, even stool samples, you can detect illness before others. You should be able to treat the illness before it becomes a big problem, and you're able to save more of the tribe. Hello? How is this a problem? Well, it's a problem because nowadays you don't understand how the natural evolution of humans went, because these people are extremely stupid. There's no other way of saying this. They don't have the concept of causality in their brains. Ah, shit, where was I? I was here, I think. Of course, this is not the only explanation. There are many factors that affect fertility. It's not about fertility, it's about economy. About economics, man. We were saying not having men recognizing their share in the household does have an impact on women choosing to have children or not. Study author Julia Briselli told me. I mean, it's a case by case, right? Different couples do different things, and that's okay. But I guess it's something that should be discussed maybe early, right? Let's say you're a guy and you're getting with a girl, and maybe you want to have a couple of kids. And you don't discuss this, and later you marry, it's like 3 years later, and you're like, but when are we having, when are we going to have kids? And she's like, but they never wanted to have kids. That's gonna be a problem. That's gonna be a problem. These things should be discussed. That's also part of the dynamics. I'm not making anything new here. The question is as simple as men doing more at home and birth rates going up. They have clearly increased their time doing childcare and domestic chores compared to generations past, while fertility has continued to drop. It's not partially fertility, I would say that's worse food quality too, and microplastics. Also, the chemicals in the water, they're real, okay? Alex Jones was not crazy. The Americans have atrazine in the fucking water. That's a disaster. But in general, there are more chemicals in the water that are not properly cleaned, which completely different topic. Pressuring men to help out more at home won't help fertility. Livingstone, a conservative demographer at the Institute of Family Studies, argued this summer. Still, it's more nuanced than that. Nordic countries that restructure parental leave, provide free childcare, and create more flexible workplace norms that pull men into caregiving have higher fertility. Yes, and now you're not gonna mention how they have more marked gender roles. Women being more traditional wives and men being more traditional husbands, which is kinda funny. The rates hover around 1.4 to 1.6, which is still kinda low. Still one below replacement, but better. Norway, Iceland, and Sweden, fathers who used their country's parental leave policies were more likely to have parents who welcome the second child. Gender equality is the magic fix, but doubling down on traditional roles seems to make things worse, not better. Also, to all of this here, we can also add the fact that people are not so close anymore, right? Back in the day, you would have family living together or nearby, so if need be, you can just call them. Nowadays, usually live farther apart from them, so that also becomes kind of a problem. Indeed, Brussels' work found out in countries where the gap between men's and women's attitudes about sharing childcare and housework was smallest, both fertility rates and female employment were higher. What seems to matter most may not be hours long and chores, but whether women perceive the arrangement as fair. You're trying to deconstruct relationships as a concept. It's a case by case. There's not just a simple equation for this. This is just a fools around. And even Stone's own data show that when women's sense of unfairness increases, fertility falls. It's not just what men do at home, but what they see it as their responsibility or as a favor. Wow, relationship dynamics affecting relationships. No way, dude. Holy shit, nobody ever thought about this. I'm supposed to think these people are smart? No, they're not. They're fucking idiots. And I'm just a guy speaking nonsense on the internet anyway. Which is even funnier. There is a huge gap. The spirit question of how men feel toward their obligations at home is not well studied. This part was definitely not well documented. Not much attention has been paid to it, and I think we should put more light on it for sure, Priscilla said. Lapagard, the sociologist in Oslo, agreed and told me there's been a general lack of interest in studying men among demographers in her field. A lack of intersectionality. I've been screaming that we need more research upon men for the last 20 years, she told me. Yeah, but no. You cannot, it's against policy guidelines. If we want to really understand what's going on with women, then we not only have to compare them with men, but also men have their own independent voice in this. Yeah, but once again, if you voice your opinion, they're gonna call you mean names because, who are you to talk about this, right? Well, I don't know. Another member of society? The other participant of these relationships? Shit, I don't know, I think that makes sense. I may be looking too much into it, I suppose. I wouldn't know. This knowledge gap exists partly because many scholars have seen the study of men and masculinity as inherently conservative, fucking idiots, and pay attention to rolling back women's rights or centering men's wounded feelings over women's material concerns. Same material concerns here is a little bit of a red flag too, isn't it? That's more important. Relationship dynamics or hypergamy? Depends who you ask, that's for sure. But if we want to understand why men's attitudes towards sharing domestic work have stagnated and as women's expectations have shifted, then we'll need to delve deeper into questions about how men see their place in the world. If we want to ultimately move towards more equality and connection, then the question of what masculinity can and should be is the one we can avoid. That's a big problem. You think about what masculinity should be. You're trying to shape culture, it's not going to work. It's derived from biology. Masculinity refers to the males in general. What they want and what they do. It's not a cultural thing. It's derived from biology. Saying otherwise is doing a disservice to yourself. And nobody's gonna take you seriously. You cannot just reshape, what masculinity means. Because that's not how it works. It's trying to change what, let's say, hunger means in cultural sense. You cannot do that. It's derived from biology. Feeling the bigger void. As concern about mental health of men has grown, so has debate about whether masculinity can be salvaged if it's fundamentally oppressive. Wow, isn't that loaded? Some argue for defining it in more humane terms. Humane society! So engaged fathers and emotionally available partners are considered masculine. Others push back hard. You don't have to be in the epitome of masculinity to be a man. It's fine. There's always been more feminine men and more masculine women, and nothing will happen. But modern society, everything has to be a deconstruction. The idea that a more positive masculinity could even exist is an attempt to scrub away the humiliating stain of womanhood from any trait or behavior before letting boys anywhere near it, argued Ruth Whitman in the New York Times. This is so stupid. They think they're saying something with this, but they're not saying anything. Masculinity and being a man are not literally the same either. You can be a man however you want, but redefining masculinity, it's not gonna work. It's the same as people redefining shit like intelligence and all that. Now, not everybody's intelligent, and that's fine. You still have positive traits about you, I bet. You might be really strong, and that's always useful. You might be really fast. You might have a special ability for communication and whatnot. Not necessarily your traditional intelligence, and that's okay. You might be good at taking care of people. You don't have to be intelligent to be a successful person, though it helps. And you don't have to be masculine to be a man. They're just constructing so much they don't even know what they're saying anymore. And so, echoed Jessica Winter in a recent New Yorker piece, but they consider that men should still rank above women in the social hierarchy. Just not as much as before. It's not about hierarchy, it's about being different. Both women propose a world where we square masculinity in exchange for full humanity and a gender-free world. But you have yet to say anything about femininity, which is really funny to me. Also, you can have a gender-free world because everything is just biology derived. So once again, this is just a fucking deconstruction. You cannot tell me these fucking people are not filthy communists, because the playbook is literally the same. You cannot deconstruct society to this point and expect people to play ball, because that's not how it works. All of this is derived from biology. And women are now realizing they've been lied to. They're like, oh, they lied to me. This is not what I wanted. Congratulations, for some of you it's too late. These exhortations, though, strike me as a wishful thinking. Dismissing positive visions of masculinity certainly wouldn't eliminate the demand for masculinity. The hunger for a sense of identity doesn't just disappear. Practically speaking, it just creates a void for the Andrew Tates and Jordan Peterson's kind of not all that great nowadays of the world to feel more easily. Because nobody's telling this man it's fine to be a man, it's fine to have man desires and man whims and man acts. That's what's going on. Make no mistake about that. And I'm not a big fan of Andrew Tate, okay? I think the guy is quite incorrect with many things he says. Because it's pretty much empty Tao, but I don't know, trying to make it more fashionable. Nah, you shouldn't be fucking around. Be you men or women, I don't care. You shouldn't be fucking around. A few people are calling to abolish femininity. Ah shit, that's what he said. I wonder why. Because only one of them is wrong, because we don't like men. But you cannot say that, what do you mean people don't like men? I've just seen society in the past 15 to 20 years. Get the fuck out of here. There are critiques, certainly, of its more toxic elements, like dangerous pressures to be thing, or encouragements to go under the knife. Never go under the knife, okay, unless it's medically advised. Let's rare to hear feminists call for women to reject femininity altogether. Instead, the movement has worked to educate women on the more harmful aspects of femininity, while widening space in womanhood for those who don't conform, and allowing women who want to embrace traditionally feminine activities to do so. So what you're trying to say here is we need to have feminism for men. The communist bullshit never ends. Oh! Literally what I said, not pre-read, I promise. We can do for men what feminism did for women. Name the harmful pressures, expand what counts as being a good man in society, and free people from the norms and make them less healthy and less connected. The valorization of dominance, the stigma around asking for help, and the equation of manhood with control needn't be the feature of masculinity. You're a woman. You don't understand how the male brain works. This does not happen because, society's pressures. No. Yes, it is in society, because society is a product of how humans interact with each other. You see masculinity as something social, but it's derived as how men work. The stigma around asking for help, it's not a stigma. It's not a stigma. Because nobody will be like, I would think less of a friend if they ask for help. No, I had to ask for help last year. I had to cut down a tree here, and they have the tools, I didn't have anything. I was like, guys, do you have something for this? They were like, oh yeah, sure, we can take care of this. And we chopped down the tree in a couple of days, and we got rid of it. And that's fine, it's not a big deal. Nobody will think less of you because of that. It's the opposite. It's the male brain being like, I can do this on my own. And since I can do this on my own, I'm gonna do it on my own. Why wouldn't I? I can just do it. That's the hunter brain working overtime. Daniel Cox, the director of the Survey Center on Family Life at the American Enterprise Institute, thinks part of the appeal of traditional gender roles is that they offer men clarity. It says that there's a defined place for them and that they are needed. The problem with messaging that all these men are hearing is that no one needs you. Women can do it on their own, he told me. It's a mission that leaves men confused and demurred. Not only that, but it's a completely attack on what men are, when you think about it. It's... I guess it's a little bit difficult for me to put this into words. I think I can just cut it to say, you know what I mean, because maybe you don't. It'd be fairer to not know in this case. It's more also of a, okay, if women don't need me, I'm gonna do my own thing. That was that's what envtuber was meant to be. Even though it had different types of success, I'd say. In response, gets pointed to relational masculinity as an idea that could help men, and that might also be more compatible with what women are looking for in partners. That's also incorrect. It's not what women are looking for in partners, it's what you taught women they're looking for in partners, because women, sadly, are really weak to social manipulation. It's the social brain. I guess that's an advantage for us guys sometimes. I think a lot of newly married husbands and new dads feel that weight of responsibility to protect and provide for their family, they can give you a lot of meaning, he said. Otherwise you might say, why am I granted, right? But when you're doing it on behalf of someone else and someone who needs you, it's incredibly motivating. Yes, that's human evolution full in displays. That's survival. I think we just fundamentally lost the idea of being in service to each other, to your family, your community, or country. But it goes both ways. Both men and women do this, but what they do, the act itself, is different. While some women will roll their eyes at the idea of men wanting to feel needed, if we're being honest, that's a deeply human, universal desire. Yes, humans are social creatures. More than the study of over 3,000 Americans, people who believe they were needed, whether by their family, their work, or their community, reported being significantly happier and more satisfied with their lives. It wasn't about egotism, it was about having a sense of purpose from something outside yourself. Which is fine, I think it's good. It's in the end, finally. The future can be different. It's not total mystery why the gender revolution has stalled. Because we're trying to fight a culture war against something that's derived from biology. In the long term, it's not gonna work. Incorporating caregiving into masculine identity as meant to give up some advantages and embrace work that's long been seen as feminine and undervalued. See, that's a problem. This is just common bullshit. You're putting masculinity as strong and femininity as weak. But that is not the case. Masculinity and femininity are just different. They do different things. And the things they do are fine, because they work in tandem with each other to create a working society. You fucking idiots. This has been working for thousands of years. And now, because you're filthy fucking communists, that you have to deconstruct everything, because you can't have the current government, you can't have the current systems, you can't have the current economy. We're like, we're gonna deconstruct everything. But you're gonna deconstruct this and expect it to work, because you're going against thousands of years of human evolution. You fucking fools. If they were smart, they would be communists. That's for sure. By countries like France, where recently found that men's and women's views on sharing housework are surprisingly aligned, it is possible for men to see engaged fatherhood and domestic labor, not as reluctant on helping, but as something core to being a good man. Even in the US, things are changing. Roughly 20% of Americans' parents report being in generally egalitarian partnerships. It's case by case, man. It's case by case. You cannot force it. It's not going to work. And women aren't going back to the 50s. They're not giving up their educations, careers, or staying in relationships that feel like in partnerships. Data suggests that, even if they did, fertility will only fall faster. Yes, once again, it's not about the education, it's not about the quality, it's about the economy. If they went back to trad wives in the 50s, but suddenly the cost of living was cut in half, they would be having more baby. Because it's just economy. But society-wide fertility can never rise again, and the conditions of gender equality remains generally uncertain. You're contradicting your whole point thanks to this. Congratulations, you played yourself. Researchers like Labrador say that they have more questions right now than answers. But what's at stake is far more than birth rates. It's whether men and women can actually build lives together. It would be easier if it wasn't for you, you fucking goblinoids, always getting your fucking deconstruction everywhere. Not understanding what humanity is. You cannot hate these people enough. I'm not even joking. You cannot hate them enough. And I guess we can mention this kind of fast right now. Speaking of the construction of society, Trump moves to ban transgender care for minors with targeting hospitals. I'm seeing a lot of people bitching and moaning about this, and I'm like, okay, but even if I disagree with some we should all agree that minors shouldn't be going under the knife because they're too stupid to understand what they're doing. You can have a beer with your dad, but you can just cut your dick off. It seems rough. And you have a lot of people saying, "Oh, but this is against the rights of the trans people and whatnot." I'm like, no, it isn't. No, it isn't. You don't have the right to groom kids. You don't have the right to just butcher kids because of that. And I don't want to read this because I want to be a little bit faster. Fellow government will block transgender care to children by targeting hospitals and doctors that provide it. Fair. They have up to like 10 years in jail for each case, which is good. The proposed rules will prohibit hospitals from participating in Medicare and Medicaid if they provide care such as puberty blockers and surgeries for transgender minors, and will prevent federal coverage of such treatments. There's another ideology that forces itself thanks to complete backward sense of causality and complete deconstruction of society, which is really funny. Also, what I mentioned here about puberty blockers and surgeries, they are extremely dangerous to young people. Despite what they might tell you about puberty blockers being completely reversible, it's a lie. It's a lie. You see young people, even young males, suffering from osteoporosis. What is that? It's low bone density. When you're at your peak, and you're actually at your worst, that's actually an old woman kind of sickness. So you know it's pretty bad. This is bring inflammations in the brain, because the brain tries to expand, but the skeleton is not growing enough. So it's constrained to a smaller skull than it should be. And extreme problems with fertility, speaking of, topically, I guess in this case. So, yeah, what can you say? I think this is a good change. I think this is a good change. Ah, shit, hold on, there we go. And I guess we can get to the last thing for today, which is also about men. Oh, no, another one. I misclicked. The Last Generation by Jacob Savage. Oh, look at that. We can read everything. That's so good. I had more links for more stuff. I will not kinda get through everything today. And I don't think I had so much stuff, but I guess some of these articles were kinda long. I had to give my opinion about everything. You cannot blame me. Why are you here then? For 15 years I've got tickets to pay the bills. But in January 2016 I was managed to a real career. I was 31, living in Los Angeles for 5 years writing scripts. There have been many successes, and a couple of small credits optioned. And I recently started writing with my best friend. We were writing constantly, making each other better, building momentum. Success felt close, but then it always did. But writing a pilot script that a veteran showrunner had agreed, in a very theoretical, very Hollywood sort of way, to come on to. That project had fizzled, so we were surprised when an executive emailed us out of the blue to meet. The showrunner explained that he'd submitted us for an upcoming writer's room he was going to run. The exec had loved our pilot and wanted to hire us. This was it. The moment our careers were supposed to take off. With putting our time, having to train ACTs and reselling tickets to make ends meet while on road. Oh, that's a little bit rough, but I guess it makes sense. And 5 years seemed par for the course based on the steadily all the guys we knew who'd made it. But of course, by 2016, we were already too late. The showrunner emailed us apologetically. I had initially thought I might be able to bring you guys on, he wrote, but in the end, it wasn't possible. We met with the executive anyway, a Chinese white guy. He told us how much he loved our pilot, but the writer's room was small. He spoke apologetically again. And the higher level writers were all white men. They couldn't have an all white male room. Maybe if the show got another season, they'd be able to bring us on. They never did. The doors seemed to close everywhere and all at once. In 2011, the year moved to Los Angeles, white men were 48% of lower level TV writers. By 2024, they accounted for just 11.9%. Atlantic's editorial staff went from 53% male and 89% white in 2013 to 36% male and 66% white in 2024. White men fell from 39% of tenure track positions in the humanities at Harvard in 2014 to 18% in 2023. More, it's collapsing a lot in like 10 years, but they will tell you it's not happening. In retrospect, 2014 was the hinge, the year DEI became institutionalized across American life. Industry after industry, gatekeepers promised extra consideration to anyone who wasn't a white man. And they provided just that. With every announcement of promotions, there was a desire to put extra emphasis on gender or race. But they will tell you this is equality, and this is balance, and this is good, which just makes no sense to me. A former management consultant recalled, and when you don't fall into those groups, the message gets louder and louder, and gains more and more emphasis. On the other hand, you want to celebrate people who have been at a disadvantage. If they were at a disadvantage, you have to ask yourself why. Is it reasonable, or was it just actual racism? If it's the second, sure, that's bad. If it's the first one, well, that's normal. On the other hand, you look and you say, wow, the world is not rooting for you. In fact, it's deliberately rooting against you. As the Trump administration takes a chance to the diversity, equity, and inclusion apparatus, there's a tendency to portray DEI as a series of well-meaning but ineffectual HR models. I don't think they're well-meaning, even. Undoubtedly, there has been half-assed DEI programming that is intrusive or even alienating, explained Kianga Yamahata Taylor in The New Yorker. But for the most part, it's a relatively benign practice and to increase diversity, also sending a message that workplaces should be fair and open to everyone. But it's not about merit, though. That's the problem. This may be how Boomer and Gen X white men experienced the AI. It was affirmative action back in the day. But for white millennials, the AI wasn't a gentle rebalancing. It was a profound shift in how power and prestige were distributed. Yet practically none of the thousands of articles and think pieces about diversity are considered the issue by cohort. By design, once again, it's all about intersectionality. You're white, you're a guy, you have low points in the Persian Olympics, so you don't really count. That's why we're not gonna count on you a lot. And they think that's good. It isn't. This isn't the story about all white men. It's a story about white male millennials in professional America, about those who stayed and who mostly stayed quiet. The same identity they get apart meant entirely different professional fates. If you were 14 in 2014, born in 74, beginning your career in the late 90s, you were already established. If you were 13 in 2014, you hit the wall. Because the mandates to diversity didn't fall on other white men, who in many cases still wield enormous power. The London S. I think the music stopped. Was this not looping? It wasn't looping. Looped. There we go. Okay, this continues. It's behind me. Oh. Okay, all right. Let me move this to the side a little bit. Yeah, like that. Maybe it matters. Maybe hard to remember now, but I can't get out the prevailing critique of American journalism was that it was woefully lacking in gender and racial diversity. What does it matter? Shouldn't you just be reporting about the facts? Lamau, if only that was the case. Having hoped that new media would be different, the internet might bring in a wider range of voices, but by the mid-2010s, the optimism was waning. Many ventures like Vox, BuzzFeed, and Politico are trying to shake up the way people get their news and entertainment online. NPR reported in 2014. But critics say those newsrooms and leadership roles are overwhelmingly made up of white men. The critics were mostly right. Walker was still 57% male and 79% white. Vice was majority male and 70% white. At 5:38, Nate Silver complained about the gender gap so severe that only 15% of applications were from women. Maybe they're just not interested, man. It's that easy. I don't know what to tell you. It was into this world that Andrew Wright in 2015, I know numbers, I promise. He took a job at a prominent new media organization and was put on the general assignment desk. Monitoring breaking news and cranking out overnight write-ups. It was rewarding, he told me. But you can imagine working a full-time gig, nights, weekends, and then on top of that trying to build up a bit on the side that could eventually propel you into something sustainable. It's always difficult. I mean, you don't have enough time, that's for sure. I enjoyed the work and developed a bit. There was still a general optimism in the air, especially around new media. I had very well regarded deep dives and occasional scoops, he said. I had credibility as somebody who had come from a more or left-leaning perspective. Was from sources on the left, but was willing to give them a kick in the teeth every now and then. Always ideological. But it's so bad that even you people are getting fucked, huh? At the time, it felt really about holding power to account and giving new ideas a fair airing. Fair. After college, before he'd moved to journalism, Andrew had worked in the non-profit world. Ambient talk about diversity and power structures had been part of the general atmosphere. He never much thought about it. In progressive space, there was always at least some concern about representation, he explained. Ah, jeez, always progressive spaces, I wonder why. It's not because of racism. Well, it kinda is, but not the way you expect. I did not say that in any way impeded my advancement for the first 6 or 7 years of my career. But that view became harder to sustain. In 2019, David Haskell, who had just been named editor-in-chief of New York Magazine, was not to respond to Steph's disappointment that another white man had been elevated to the role. I understand the reaction. Part of me shares it, he tells his staff. The most effective way to move the needle on diversity hiring is for a strong, loud commitment. To come from the very top of the masthead, I plan to do exactly that. I think I remember reading that. It's been a long time, but I'm not sure. Andrew didn't work at New York, but he watched similar pressures reshape his newsroom. He'd been there for 5 years, a bit reporters who couldn't seem to move up, and suddenly all anyone could talk about were diversity metrics. Management was, as he put it, obsessed about recruiting people of color. But the pool was small. Anyone promising was quickly poached by the New York Times or Capable News. Yes, because you don't have a lot of black people compared to the amount of white people you have in the US. You cannot have 50-50 white and black, because white and black population is not 50-50 in the US, yet. This shouldn't be difficult to understand, but these people are insanely stupid. Tell the declarations this newsroom had been making, the imperatives, enough with gats already. Seemed to me to be the mantra, he told me. And you couldn't help but wonder if that meant you were being passed up for opportunities. Even if your wrong organization, yes. Too white, too male, too straight. Institution pursuing diversity decided that there would be no backsliding. If a position was vacated by a woman or person of color, the expectation was it would be filled by another woman or person of color, or both. The hope was always that you were going to hire a diverse candidate. A senior hiring editor, the major outlet told me, "You're being poisoned by your own fucking ideology. It's hilarious. You're killing yourself over your own virtue signaling. It's hilarious. It would be if it wasn't this bad." There was a black woman at the beginning of her career you wanted to hire. You could find someone, but if she was any good, you knew she would get accelerated to the New York Times or the Washington Post in short order. Yes, still about merit. Oh, god fucking damn it. The truth is, after years of going straight to the fourth, most news outlets had already reached and quietly surpassed gender parity. In 2019, the newsrooms of ProPublica, the Washington Post, the New York Times, were majority female, as were New Media, Upstairs, Vice, Vox, BuzzFeed, and the Huffington Post. Holy shit, most of them are just trash, I wonder why. And then 2020 happened and the wheels came off. In the aftermath of Google? George Floyd's death. Newsrooms stripped over themselves to stage a reckoning. The New York Times solemnly promised sweeping reforms. On top of the sweeping reforms it had already promised, the Washington Post declared it would become the most diverse and inclusive newsroom in the country. CNN pledged the sustained commitment to raise coverage, while Bon Appetit confessed that our mastheads had been far too wide for far too long. Yet the magazine had tokenized many BIPOC staffers and contributors. NPR went further still, declaring that diversity was nothing less than its North Star. All of that just because of a fucking fence demon. Hilarious. These weren't empty slogans either. In 2021, new hires at Condé Nast were just 25% male and 49% white. At the California Times, parent company of the Los Angeles Times and the San Diego Tribune, they were just 39% male and 31% white. That year, ProPublica hired 66% women and 58% people of color. At NPR, 78% of new hires were people of color. There's not 70% of people of color population in the US. But that's another issue, I suppose. For a typical job, we get a couple hundred applications, probably at least 80 from white guys. The hiring editor recalled, "It was a given that we weren't going to hire the best person. It was jarring now. How? We would talk about excluding white guys. The pipeline hadn't changed much. White men were still nearly half the applicants, but they were now filling closer to 10% of open positions." But I thought this didn't happen. I thought everything was about merit. See what I mean? Cesspit of hatred and lies. Cesspit of hatred and lies, as usual. Suddenly, in Andrew's newsroom, everything was driven by identity. There were endless diversity trainings and racial climate assessment. At one point, reporters were told they had to catalog, in minute detail, the identity characteristics of all their sources. Why? It's so racist, holy shit. And he had been instrumental in forming the union at his company, and objected when negotiations shifted from severance pay and parental leave to demand for racial quotas. But I thought this wasn't happening, Lamau. They wanted like emergency hires of black people, he said. Holy shit, how racist can you be? When he questioned these new priorities, the response was swift. On a Zoom call, women would clap back at something he was saying, and other women would snap their fingers in the chat window. He recalled, it was the sociocultural language being introduced wholesale. Sounds like the most obnoxious possible place to work at. So, congrats. That's what you get for being a fucking journal. Desperate for advancement, he had the same job, the same title for nearly 6 years. Andrew looked elsewhere, applied for positions at the Atlantic, Politico, CNN, the Washington Post, the different desks at the New York Times, he told me. But newsrooms were contracted, which only made competition more intense. When scarcity set in, you start to worry about these things a little bit more, Andrew reflected. This was a business model problem that was exacerbated by the racial and gender preference problem. At the Atlantic, Andrew didn't even get an interview. Jeffrey Goldberg, the editor-in-chief, had described his own philosophy back in 2019. By opening the possibilities of younger people, women, and people of color, by imagining the rise in a deliberate way, I just widened the pool of potential leadership. There's no quota system here. What a fucking lie. What a fucking liar! How dare you! Goldberg was candid about another, less comfortable reality. It's really hard to write a 10,000 word cover story, he said in the same interview. There are not a lot of journalists in America who can do it. The journalists in America who do it are most exclusively white males. What about the merit, though? What about the merit? With or without quotas, the Atlantic succeeded in hiring fewer of these white males. Since 2020, nearly 2/3 of the Atlantic hires have been women, along with nearly 50% people of color. In 2024, the Atlantic announced that 3/4 of the total hires in the past year had been women and 69% people of color. The irony was where older white men remained in charge, especially where they remained in charge, there was almost no room to move up. You had the team of white guys around you, you were putting a target on your back, recalled the hiring editor. At the New York Times Magazine, one of the few prestige magazines with the public masthead, Jake Silverstein, I do be noticing. I don't want to mention it, but I do be noticing. A Gen X white man serves as editor-in-chief, and Bill Wasek, another Gen X white man, serves as editor-director. But of 9 millennial senior editors and story editors below them, there's just one guy, and he's been there since 2012, effectively grandfathering in. At the very bottom of the ladder, the picture is a little different. Since 2020, only 7.7% of Los Angeles Times interns have been white men, which seems extremely low between 2018 and 2024. Of the roughly 30 summer interns each year at the Washington Post, just 2 or 3 were white men. 2025, coincided with certain political shifts, the Post intern class had 7 white guys. Numbers not seen since way back in 2014. Oh, the tides are changing. The tides are changing, potentially. So funny. In 2018, the New York Times replaced its summer internship with a year-long fellowship. Just 10% of the nearly 220 fellows have been white men. Other pipelines dried up as well. The adult weeklies that gave misfit young men their start have shut them entirely. There are no white men on the editorial staff of the Seattle Stranger, or on the staff of In the Wing. As late as 2017, there were 6 white men atop the masthead of the Portland Mercury. By 2024, there was just one. The boomer editor-in-chief. Imagine my fucking shock. By the early 2010s, many journalists I spoke to noticed something else. The young white men who once flooded internship and fellowship polls had a similar stop applying. Jason May had absorbed the message that journalism was not for them. The femaleness striking, a well-known JNS reporter with impeccable liberal and benefits confided. It's like, wow, where have the guys gone? I don't know. What have you done with them? Less than a decade, the entire face of the industry changed. The New York Times newsroom has gone from 57% male and 78 white in 2015 to 46 male and 16 white in 2024. Canada's today is just 35% male and 60 white. BuzzFeed immediate operation had been 52% male and 75% white in 2014, versus 36% male and 52 white by 2023. But nothing explains the news media story quite like Vox, whose players dominated 20 times the scores and has a stolen demographics capture to take his professional shift. Back in 2013, when Ezra Klein came under fire for his startup's lack of diversity, Vox Media was 82% male and 88 white. Funny number. In 2022, the company was just 37% male and 59 white, and by 2025, leadership was 37% female. The demographic shift reshaped not only who told the stories, but which stories got told. After the Fan Demon's death, anti-psychologist Lucas, and colleague Lucas, was assigned a piece about why you should never call the police. Yeah, get yourself killed. It should be good, I guess. I remember having to interview one of these abolitionists for a story about how if somebody breaks into your car or your home, it's white supremacy to call the cops. If you need it for insurance support, even the criminals are white. That's funny. What did they mean by this? Lucas told me. It always made me feel gross. I think back on that with a lot of regret. This is long as fuck, okay. We're gonna finish this point, and we will leave the rest for another time, I'm afraid. Yes, were center left places in 2005. The prominent JNX reporter told me. They're incredibly left places. Imagine one reason newsrooms I've gotten more exclusively lefty is that you have white guys and white women adopting a kind of protected coloration, allyship mindset to get through the door. It's also all about virtue signaling, so that makes sense. Energy for Sport was unable to adopt the performative allyship that had become expected. I always thought I was a effeminate nerd growing up, but in my way of expressing myself, that puts me in the most masculine end of men in media. Say what I mean. This also relates to the other article. It's just a deconstruction of masculinity too. You cannot be a guy like this. And the guy is probably just a raging homosexual, okay? Which is fine, okay? It's fine, but you cannot tell me that's extremely masculine. Just stop conflating terms. Not to pick up on the fact that there wasn't much room for people who have been speaking in my timber. Oh my god. He was recruited for a senior reporter position at a more prestigious outlet, given through hopes every step of the way, as he told me. But by the end it felt like a cruel joke. Extensive interviews, written tests, endless meetings with various editors, only to find out months later the job had gone to someone a decade younger than him. A gay man of color who managed to go from intern to assistant editor to senior reporter in less than 2 years. It's not a joke. It's never been a joke. It's just all about intersectionality. I keep saying this, and I know I'm right, because they say it themselves! There's nothing wrong with the guy being gay and of color. That's not the point. But it's clear that he's getting promotions because of the intersectionality. I don't think that should be relevant if you want to be a fucking journalist. I guess he has a lot of practice sucking cock, which is extremely common nowadays with journalists. They disgust me to no end. And the journals, I don't care about the case. If you're a white man, you gotta be the superstar, Andrew told me. You can't help feeling like no matter how good you are, you were born in the wrong year. If you saw it, the industry had its super successful white guys who made it before 2014, and so were functionally Gen X, but for everyone else, moving up in a contracting industry was nearly impossible. I was kind of grandfather during one era, and had achieved a level going into 2015 to 2024. Where it just didn't really affect me. Oh, the superstar journalist told me. So that was also a little bit of a Nepo baby, perhaps? I mean, it's not uncommon, to be fair. After so many years of buyouts, Andrew finally made senior reporter in 2023, but by then it felt like a little recognition and a consolation prize. He was coming up on 40 and married, with little room for forward or lateral movement. The next round of buyouts hits. He said it was time to live. This is not even half of this. It's really long. I completely misread the time I had left, which is kind of a shame. But hey, I thought this was not happening, but it's happening. And the people that agree with this are telling you it's actually happening, which is hilarious in a really ironic way. Anyway, I've gone overtime for about half an hour, so I guess it might be time to maybe take my leave. I'll take a second here. Okay. Kinda hate leaving this just in the middle. Should we just push forward? I think we should. It's gonna be disconnected. I have to wait a full week, man. Do we finish this? We can. You know what? We can. We're gonna finish this. I don't care. But let me bring this up back again. We're gonna go over 4 taking hour at this rate. You know what? It's probably okay. It's not a big deal. I kinda wanna finish this. I think it's really interesting. I think it's really important. Let's get through this. Screw it. Screw it. We're doing this live. Okay, hold up. Where's all my stuff? There we go. The Ivory Tower. There are many stories we'll tell ourselves about race and gender, especially in academia. But the one thing everyone I spoke to seemed to agree on is it's best not to talk about it. At least not in public. At least not with your name attached. Funny. It's not happening, but if it's happening, it's good. The humanities are so small, a millennial professor nervously explained. It's the difference between thinking something and making common knowledge that you think it, said another. Let me take a sip here. Been yapping for 2 hours and a half. It's kinda rough. The game was a bit of a shock when David Austin Walsh, a Yale postdoc and left-wing Twitter personality, decided to detonate any chance he had at a career with a single tweet. Look, if that detonates any chance you have, maybe the whole system is corrupt, and I think that's truly the case. I'm 35 years old, I'm 4+ years post PhD, and quite frankly, I'm also white dude. Oh, what a crime. You cannot do that. He wrote on X. Combine those factors together, and I'm, for all intents and purposes, unemployable as a 20th century American historian. He is not wrong. Well, you can always be gay. That's a consolation prize. You can always be gay. I know it doesn't really help, but once again, fucking intersectionality. I do remember back in, when was it, 2014, that I think it was her first video, that Shuon had video in the Oppression Olympics. He was 100% right, but it was not just Tumblr, it was literally everywhere. If only we knew back then. The pile was swift and vicious. Not just laughable, wrote the New York Times. Nico Han Jones. Have you seen the data on professorships? Well, men are 30% of the US population, but nearly 40% of faculty. To the tenure professor at GW. Great Washington University? I have no idea. I have to make the case for systemic discrimination. Yeah, as we've seen, there's also some stuff for ages, which is really funny. It didn't matter, as far back as 2012, women were more likely to be tenure track across the humanities than men. They seem more female inclined in my opinion, unless here. But a 2015 peer-reviewed study suggested that STEM hiring favored women. Given that a KUPAR, I don't know what that is, an association of academic DA professionals found that assistant professors of color, 35%, and female assistant professors, 52%, are overrepresented in comparison to US doctoral degree recipients, 52% and 44% respectively. Of course they're overrepresented. but that's the point. If you spare me some more tinfoil, even though it's not a tinfoil, it's been said by politicians several times, by Keir Starmer, Hillary Clinton, the own UN, they want to replace the white population. It's not even a joke. They say that directly themselves. Yes, they are replacing their population. And this is just another side of that hellish die. As in other industries, no matter what the optics, when people look at the academia, you still saw all white men, lots of them. A big part of why it's hard to diversify is that turnover is really slow. A 10 millennial professor explained. That's become worse now, because boomers live a long time. Ah, shit! Sorry for being alive! Many elite universities once had a true retirement at 70, but in 1994, Congress considered the academic exception for age discrimination, looking at the demographics of the largely white male professorate for a generation. It's not that they are conservative or anything like that anyway. So I don't know what you mean by this. White men may still be 55% of Harvard's arts and sciences faculty, down from 63% a decade ago, but this is a legacy of boomer and genius employment patterns. For tenure-track positions, the pipeline for future faculty white men have gone from 49% in 2014 to 27% in 2024. In the humanities, they've gone from 39% to 21%. The pipelines and the cohorts haven't changed much. The elemented humanities speech this have been evenly split between men and women for over a decade now. White men number other groups in most applicant pools. Who was getting hired? Certainly did. At Berkeley, white men were 48.2% of faculty applicants in the physical science, which makes sense, it's really male-brained, because it's just a bunch of numbers, but just 26% of hires for assistant professors' positions. In 2019, only 14.6% of tenure-track assistant professors hired at Yale have been white American men. In the humanities, the number was just 6 out of 76, 7.9%. That's pretty rough. Well, now let me put some stuff around here. Yeah, ended up the wrong stuff before when I thought I was ending. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. The white men who do get hired are often older and more established, or foreign. Because of fucking course. Several people I spoke with noticed that European white men don't seem to face these barriers. Because despite them being white, they're somewhat exotic. It's also intersectionality, because they're not native. Also counts. The reason one professor suggested is this is slightly inside the American culture wars. Not anymore, I don't think. Another thing, an administrative sleight of hand. Federal education statistics classify foreign nationals inside racial categories. And the ones that went to European or work visa doesn't register as white in diversity metrics. Just what you said. I know how to work. On new PhDs with definite academic employment plans, white temporary visa holders are nearly twice as likely as white US citizens or permanent residents to secure tenure-track positions. 61% versus 33.1% in 2023. Oh, long. This is long. This is low burn for sure. Right wrist suffering. Senior hiring is still very often white men. Will, an Ivy League professor, told me. His humanities department had hired 2 higher-level white men. When conducted a search for a junior professor, there was one man among the finalists. On paper, who was so clearly the strongest candidate, we remembered. It's really kind of did feel like, well, we can't not interview this guy, but we're still not gonna hire him, he had been told. If we're on the fence here, we should not go with the man again. They will call you racist and whatnot for pointing this out, but it's literally happening. It's literally happening. I'm never making shit up. I just parroting their points, their talking points. The ancestry department, with 10 white male professors over the age of 70, provides a striking illustration of the generational divide in hiring. Since 2018, they've hired 4 older white men as full professors, but among 16 tenure or tenure-track millennials, Just one is a white man. It's probably gay. Because that also helps. 94, the Cold War historian John Gaddis isn't even the oldest in the department. Holy shit, that's crazy. The art history department at the time I arrived in 1997 was overwhelmingly white and male, if not yet millennial. He told me in an email. Some remedial action was long overdue. Remedial action? Why? If they're good, why would you change them? It doesn't make any sense. This remedial action can take many forms. Berkeley commissioned regression analysis to identify which quasi-legal strategies would produce the first number of white male job offers. If you had to go with quasi-legal, I don't know about that one, man. Might not be good. At that mouth, the Male to Vardak program provided 10 tenure track positions for new hires with a demonstrated commitment to addressing racial underrepresentation interdisciplines. Now we're white men. Cluster hiring, which began in the 90s as a way to expand interdisciplinary research, was reformed in the 2010s as a shortcut to achieve diversity goals. Entire groups of underrepresented candidates could not be hired at once, working around the often indecent tenure approval process. Suspicious. Once again. The way you try to demographically diversify without making it explicit is searching areas where the areas are strongly correlated with gender or ethnicity. An Ivy League professor explained to me, in cluster hiring, Latinx studies will gain you several Latinx faculty. You cannot say that, that's a bad word. A professor of transgender studies will, in all likelihood, not be a straight cis man. I need to ask, why do you need those studies anyway? They're completely useless. A white male assistant professor of black sexualities is closer to an SNL sketch than to any lived reality in 2024. Not a fun joke, I'm afraid. All this left little action for anyone else. He has spent nearly a decade, first at Yale Law, then at Top Classics program, watching his professional pathways narrow until they seemingly disappeared. He said people he knew, as long as they fit the right demographic profile, they pass up on searches and receive tenure track offers before they even finish their PhDs. Is that even legal? That's crazy. Many advisors will say, very openly, they're just two completely different hiring schemes, he told me. They're just two completely different categories of person. But it's not happening. It's not happening. Hanging over it all was an invisible curriculum. The political assumptions about what should and should not be studied. He also called a fellow graduate student he made at Yale, a white man oblivious to last academic orthodoxies. He went on this long, passionate monologue about military history. He knew all sorts of details of Roman military history. He really wants to study it. That's too guy-coded. That's not allowed anymore. I just thought you're hopeless. There's no way anyone is going to hire you. He almost wasn't schooled properly. If he had been, without anyone ever needing to tell him, he would just drop all about military history. He said no, that's right, an European male and dead. Only one person from James' classic cohort won't have with the tenure track offer. He is gay, Asian American, exceptionally conversant in the language of critical theory, Jim said. And he got this job on the merits. On the merits. Which merits, by the way? It's really good. His stuff that's also very in. James, on the other hand, applied to just a couple of tenure track jobs in classes before he gave up. Most people didn't even try, he told me. For young white men doing dead white male stuff, it was just totally hopeless. Not only they're trying to substitute you, they're also trying their best to completely destroy your history. It's a double or even triple whammy. Not a fun one, that's for sure. Not a fun one. There you go. I brought in the completely false assumptions. Anything educated social scientists told me. I always had the vague and naive, and frankly a privileged idea, that professionally everything would work itself out. It was gonna be a tenure track professor, she said. That was my expectation. Like so many middle-class millennials of the Obama era, Ethan believed he was on the right side of history. You fool. You fool! You were only opening the gates for the barbarians to also kill you. He had entered academia after an unsatisfying stint in the corporate world precisely because he was interested issues of inequality. He wanted to make the world a better place, becoming wide-eyed, bushy-tailed, and he felt like in the early 2010s, there was good reason to feel that way. I don't think so. I don't think so. You were lied to, man. He told me. Said he was moving in a direction that felt more fair. They just cast oriented. Funny how that works. No, it was just a change. Now you have a different cast of people. Please understand. It was not random. After focusing on BLM and then hashed them into a stack of diversity and representation and purely swept across campuses, universities responded with a host of new initiatives. While faculty diversity programs had been in place for decades, Penn and Columbia committed tens of millions of dollars to address the issue in 2012, Harvard in 2006, and Yale launched the effort as early as 1999. This has been mostly ineffective. Its time would be different. The new initiatives may have had ethereal, non-specific names, like inclusive excellence, and towards new destinations, but they had very concrete goals. Fucking you over. Things changed really quickly, Ethan said. I think it was just a couple of years off in terms of what the opportunities looked like. His first year on the academic job market, Ethan applied to nearly 50 jobs. It was a slog. He was thrilled he was a finalist for a tenure track position at Brown University. Wasn't there a shooting there last week? Or this week? Unlucky. He was flown out to Providence, where he toured the campus and met with faculty, but Brown, and much of the academic world, adopted their institutional priorities. That's funny, that's the name Brown. But in 2016, Brown had pledged the double faculty diversity within 6 years. There's significant work to do in the coming months and years to implement the diversity and inclusion action plan. Provost Richard Locke, himself a white male boomer, said at the time, "Yes, it also comes from your own people," which is even funny. They didn't care about their own legacy. A diversity representative was installed on every job search committee. I cannot believe it's not China! The Office of Institutional Equity and Diversity reviewed all hiring advertisements, as well as faculty short and long lists. In tenure tracking hiring, the long list is a collection of potential candidates, and the short list is a selection of most qualified to consider for the interview phase. They gave Sam a sense of what this meant on the ground. In 2022, there were 728 applicants to tenure track jobs in the humanities at Brown, 55% of whom were men. At the first stage of the process, the male share was whittled down. The long list was 40% male, the short list 42%. Only 34% of candidates who made it to the interview round were male, and only 29% of the jobs were ultimately offered to men. A similar dynamic found the social sciences. 54%. Brain, please work with me. 54% of the 722 applicants were men, 24% of the shortlist was male, and just 52% of job offers were tendered to men. In the physical sciences, one more 43% of applicants, but received 42% of job offers. Surely that's completely normal. Physical science, by the way, which is sausage party as usual. Ethan made it to the final interview round at Brown. After a long back and forth with the search committee, saying he believes of internal dissension, he lost out. They wanted everything through the prism of race, Ethan recalled. Unless you place race squarely at the center of your research, you're vulnerable, especially if your identity doesn't fit the desired profile. They keep justifying it, because it's against white people. And since because it's against white people, it's fine, it's good. It's even something they should be doing. No, it's not. No, it's not, obviously not. But the man who managed the best to Brown's Gender Gauntlet, that's not a game I want to play. And was young or white. Since 2022, Brown has hired 45 tenure track professors in the humanities and social sciences. Just 3 were white American men, 6.7%. Over the next 3 years, Ethan applied to dozens more positions, including at UC Berkeley and UC Irving. As elsewhere, the UC schools require DA statements in which prospective faculty were asked to detail future plans to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. But not for you. Ethan had to write dozens of these statements, and because of his job search, the UC is taking it a step further. Under an $8.5 million USD state program called Advancing Faculty Diversity, UC administrators use DA statements as a first cut The window the applicant polls before faculty were even allowed to consider candidates. Been having a huge sense of deja vu for a while. So I wonder if I read something like this at some other time. I feel like I did, but I'm not sure. I feel like it did. Every single time it just sounds the same to me, I don't know. I just don't know. He didn't make any ESC shortlists. Why would he have? The program had achieved this intended fact. At Berkeley, as recently as 2015, white male hires were 52.7% of new tenure track faculty. In 2023, they were 21.5%. UC Irving has hired 64 tenure track assistant professors in the humanities and social sciences since 2020. Just 4.7%, are white men. Of the 59 assistant professors in arts, humanities, and social science appointed at UC Santa Cruz between 2020 and 2024, only 2 were white men. 3%. All in all, Ethan was a finalist for a tenure track position 5 times. He was flung out again and again for interviews and meet and greets and department and dinners. Always the bridesmaid, never the bride. At a certain point, he began to see himself the way the search committee did. Other identifiers or other things invalid about himself have receded. He explained, being a white man, meanwhile, moved to the foreground in a way that he didn't expect. Taking a toll on Ethan's personal life, he's been with his partner for 7 years, but they've spent much of that time treading water. They want kids, but without the financial security of a tenure track position, it's daunting. It's all about the fucking economy. I've been saying this for an hour and a half. Only today. I'm not wrong. I know what I'm talking about. The decision is on hold and may never happen, he said. He's always anxious the grant money might dry up. I don't feel like my career path is leading anywhere. Feels like a dead end. Occasionally he surrenders to anger and bitterness. It's a sheer group of talented white men who can get tenure track jobs, he told me. Receptive institutions associated with bias, they're completely blind to their own. They're not blind to their own. They know their bias and they like it. That's what you don't get. This is all part of the plan. Because they don't want you. They want you completely destitute. As for Richard Locke, the provost who spearheaded Brown's Diversity and Inclusion Action Plan, in 2022, Locke left to accept the sinecure as Dean of Apple University, Apple's in-house personal training facility. In all searches, there has been consistent attention to diversity and inclusion, he bragged in a valedictory interview. His replacement at Brown was, who else? Another 60-year-old white man. They're completely fucking with young people. In a really bad way. As part of the plan. And so was being part of the plan. But they will call you names, if you notice too much. That's the problem. Pig TV! Patrick the Third of a smart, slightly manic cinephile who's been a feature of Hollywood forever. The guy at the bar who can explain why a project was greenlit. A guy with lots of money and little experience, or why the writer got hired. Background is a playwright, and was Scott Rowling. And dismissed the latest Netflix release with a wave of his hand. Dog shit. A story that shouldn't be a movie. Hey! I do that all the time! Do not call me a journalist, okay? Like me, Matt moved out to Los Angeles in 2011, but unlike me, by 2014, he done the job as a staff writer on a network TV series. I thought I would be one of those mediocre white jabronis who just flows to the top and works forever, he said. He had more money from that single episode of network TV than he'd seen in his life. He felt he was on a familiar trajectory, with some respects, network around, get your break, and then work steadily until you get your own show. But he couldn't outrun the culture. In the fall of 2014, this was nominated only white people for acting awards, and the hashtag #OscarsSoWhite was born. And nowadays you have quotas if you want to win the Oscars. You better have a bunch of diversity, if not, you cannot participate. The New York Times ran story after story. The Academy promised reform as did the studios, and they delivered. In 2015, Matt was looking for a follow-up job, a staff writer or a story editor. He couldn't crack anything, he recalled. It was like almost immediate. There was a real disillusionment because I thought It was just kind of me for a while. And I wasn't. It wasn't! He said it right here. Hollywood was in the midst of a revolution. As hashtag Oscar So White bled into hashtag Me Too, the mandates only intensified. You could read the white guy's script, a former assistant to Genghis white male showrunner told me. But there was no way in hell that person was going to get staffed on the show. Showrunners only had a couple of spots for white people, and they kept those for the 40 or 50-year-old white guys they'd known for years. To be fair, they also have probably the highest skills, but that means replacement is never coming. A whistleblower sent me a document from early 2017, internal neat shit, compiled by a major talent agency that shows just how steep the headwinds were. First the grid, which are staffing needs for TV writers' rooms. The same shot and appear dozens of times. Diverse, female, women diverse only. These mandates came from some of the most powerful names in television. Noah Hawley, prioritizing women. Dean Dowling, prioritizing women. Ideally higher ethnic / African American. Ryan Murphy, one female and diverse, emphasis on African American. All of this is quite literally illegal, by the way. They cannot do that, but they still do. Because good luck fighting against this legally when you're a destitute guy that doesn't even have a job. How did you guess we're deranged, Lemau? We're always deranged. Everything is deranged here. When we talk about current events in society. Oh. Holy shit, this article is so long. I've been reading this for more than an hour. I should have stopped like an hour ago, but I didn't. This was systemic. Not even systemic. Systematic discrimination. Isn't this like a story of seasons music? This is. Hold up, where's my music? This is from Pokemon Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire. Foreboding Forest, apparently. I mean, it should be. It's a Pokemon Winter music video. So, being from Pokemon makes sense. They have some tracks I don't really recognize a lot, to be fair. As me playing without music half of the time. This was systematic discrimination, documented in writing, implemented without consequence. Striking how casual it all was. Chicago Fire. The upper level can be anyone, but we need diverse staff writers. As in other industries, upper level positions, writers with experience and credits, will still be filled by white men. But the entry level jobs, the staff writer and co-producer positions that Matt and thousands of other aspiring writers were competing for, were reserved for others. They still had these quotas they felt pressure to fill, a veteran talent manager told me. It was always the lower and mid-level people. But I thought they didn't have quotas. What do they mean by this? Of course they have. If they actually say they have quotas, it's illegal. And they are liable, legally liable. So they cannot do that, obviously. Jeez, it's so cold. It's so drippy. Every fellowship grant and hiring incentive was only oriented toward changing who got in the door. The Writers Guild lists more than a dozen student-run initiatives for emerging diverse writers. This new writing program, which rated itself on placing early all its fellows as staff writers. All its fellows. This is just sheer nepotism. I mean, it's not uncommon. Not necessarily good, but it's not the worst we've seen today, that's for sure. It awarded 107 writing fellowships and 17 writing fellowships over the past decade. Down to white men. I mean, if you know anything about Disney, it's not surprising. Early ever capsule bio for these programs is an attempt to communicate, with as little subtlety as possible, the writer is not a white man. A Korean and Polish American writer from Seattle. Korean and Polish? I mean, she doesn't get much more diverse than that. A comedy writer with Cuban, Puerto Rican, and New Mexican roots. Isn't New Mexico in the US? Not diverse enough. Another prestigious venue for up-and-coming screenwriters was the Sundance Screenwriters Lab. Probably is Darren Aronofsky, Paul Thomas Anderson, and Quentin Tarantino amongst his alumni. Alumni? I'm not sure. I'll listen to this reading. Oh, for fuck's sake. How does this keep happening? How does this keep happening? You have to follow. You have to follow for 6 minutes. And they still have insane bots here. Fucking me over. I hate this. I hate Kick sometimes. The fucking bots are insane, man. Holy moly. Not like this. Not like this. Hold up. Is this gonna get worse? I don't think so, thankfully. God damn, they're so annoying. Okay, where was I? Here. The level was just amazing. Quentin Turner recalled in 2017 and the 25th anniversary of Reservoir Dogs, and took us really seriously. I couldn't believe how altruistic it was. The whole point was to just help us to refine our aesthetic. In the 2010s, Sundance came under fire for producing a disproportionate number of white male auteurs. I think that's just French for author, I'm not sure. The organization decided that would never happen again. 2016, 2017, 27.5% of applicants to the Screenwriters Lab were white men, but there were just 14.7% of participants. That figure turned out to be relatively high. Since 2010, just 8 of 138, that's 5.8%, of the fellows selected have been white men. Notably, nearly all have either had some other defining characteristics, disabled or gay, or were partnered with a woman or a person of color. They, just 1 in 10 millennial programmers at Sundance, is a straight white man. These programs originally established to open a closed pipeline turned to their own solutionary infrastructure. What did you expect, Lemao? Matt never bothered replying. At a certain point, he realized the juice isn't worth the squeeze. He said, "You're doing everything you can to break through, and the goalposts keep moving." After striking out in TV for almost 5 years, Matt transitioned into features which were less identity-driven. I thought not working for that many years would break me, but it actually made me better, he told me. I had to figure out how to write stuff that would pop and get me back in. When we spoke, it was a real point of pride how much he'd been able to improve his writing, how at least temporarily he succeeded in overcoming the odds. By the end of 2010s, that were paid off when his scripts landed on the blacklist, the prestigious annual ranking of unproduced screenplays voted on by Hollywood development executives. This gave Matt much needed momentum. He saw multiple spec scripts and was finally able to quit his day job, but it was hard to translate into steady work. Even after he managed to get A-list showrunners attached to a couple of projects, when staffing season came, they never offered him a position on their own shows. Which is insane. Harvey was never even in the conversation, he said. In other words, Matt had a better chance of getting his own show on the air than getting staffed. Which usually is the opposite, isn't it? Then Yang-san, the creator of Severance, who sold his pilot in 2016, wasn't able to land a job in TV writer's room until his own show began production. In 2020 to 2021, Matt's agent submitted him for a prestige series. The showrunners liked his sample. They wanted to talk about availability, but the offer was abruptly pulled. One of the showrunners, a Gen X white guy, had blocked it. Yes, I wonder why. The role already had too many white guys. They're crawling through broken glass and still not enough, Matt reflected. I cannot just choose to ignore it out of self-preservation. Because if I'm bitter or angry, then I'm even further away from what I want. Nobody wants the guy shaking his fist. Why not? Shake your fist, son! Shake your fist! Throughout our conversations, Matt never blamed the women or people of color who had gotten opportunities he hadn't. He blamed the old generation of white men who pulled up the ladder behind them. And he was right too. Between 2004 and 2013, over 40 Gen X white men received Academy Award nominations for screenwriting. In the following decade, 2014 to 2023, more than 50 Gen X white men were nominated, alongside just 6 white male millennials. Over Matt's 14 years in Hollywood, the changes have been staggering. In 2011, when he and I moved to California, white men were around 60% of TV writers. By 2025, according to the WJA's all diversity statistics, They accounted for just 11.9% of lower level writers. We read these numbers before. You're repeating yourself. This is already way too long. Please. I'm trying my best. Women of color made up 34.6%. White men directed 69% of TV episodes in 2014 and just 34% by 2021. But that remaining third went overwhelmingly to established names, leaving title space for younger white men. Since 2021, 11 directors under 40 have been nominated for Emmys. Now have been white men. They can see every single time you say white men. Holy shit, you're gonna end up with some sort of conniption here. It's kinda rough, man. It's kinda rough, not gonna lie. Oh, brother. And if you extrapolate this information here with the quality of shows in the past decade, you start to paint a strange painting about quality and what's going on with this strange diversity measures. And inside this graveyard of people not too dissimilar from me, Peter, the assistant to the youngest showrunner, told me. Peter, who graduated from a top 5 college in the early 2010s, watched slightly older millennial men wait for a break that never came. They were like, hey, I'm gonna take this kind of shit job for 2 years. Oh wait, I can do it for 3 more years. Suddenly they're married, having kids. They just didn't get the deal. It was never gonna happen for them. Ever. Peter eventually left for the tech world. It's a lot better to actually know you're about to get hit by a car than not know, he told me. The tragedy of our generation is just thinking the world is a certain way and all. I mean, both sides have the same coin. Because both sides keep telling you, it's working this way, but it isn't working this way. And it's a detriment, an absolute detriment for some, and for the others, it's just incredible. It's perfect. It's just what they need. So it's a bit of a fucking disaster. I can't lie. That single episode of network television from 2014 remains Matt's only produced credit. When we last spoke, he was committed to his manual day job. Nearly single with tens of thousands of dollars of credit and card debt. He has recurrent fantasies of changing his name and moving to Thailand to skip his creditors. Holy shit, that's so rough, dude. That's so rough. And this is also compounded to the lie of university, right? They tell, oh, just go to university and you will get a good job. No, especially in the US, you're gonna get in huge debt, and the job market's not even that better. Sometimes it's even worse. What an absolute disaster. So one bedroom, VPN access to American TV/film content, he tested me. The dream. I don't know about that. Matt, do not kill yourself. Never kill yourself. Okay? Everywhere else. I'm pretty sure this is the last point. We've been at this for far too long. Jesus Christ. For a decade. It kept going, faster and faster, without any actual quotas to achieve. Only the constant exhortation to do better. Isn't that so nasty? Just do better. How many times have we seen this? What do better means? What does it mean? I don't understand. The diversity complex became self-radicalizing, a strange confluence of top-down and bottom-up pressure. No one ever said what the right number of white men would be, but it was always fewer than you currently have. They will never be happy until the number of white men is 0. And once again, that's not me saying it, it's them saying it, it's Keir Starmer, it's Hillary Clinton, it's the fucking UN. It's them saying so. The boundary shifted depending on the industry and the moment. A white woman might be favored in some contexts, disfavored in others. An Asian American man might face extra obstacles in tech or medicine, but if he wanted to be a screenwriter or an English professor, this nothing worked in his favor. Because traditionally, Asian Americans are pretty good doctors, I feel. You doctor yet? But for younger white men, and professional success was fundamentally a problem for institutions to solve. And solve it they did. Over the course of the 2010s, nearly every mechanism liberal America used to come for prestige was reweighted along identitarian lines. 7 white male Gen Xers won the MacArthur Genius Fellowship in 2013 alone. The same as the total number of white male millennials who've won since. I'm choking so much now, dude. I'm choking so much now. Holy moly, it's not on purpose, eh? Not on purpose. 2014, 2 white male millennials were National Book Award finalists, including 1 winner. That year, 9 white male American artists under 40 appeared at the winning biennial. But of the 70 millennial writers nominated for National Book Awards, in the decade that followed, just 3 were white men. The big 4 galleries represented 47 millennial artists. Just 3 are white men. And the 2024 winning biennial, which featured 45 millennial artists, 3 were white American men. The white men shut out of the culture industries didn't search into other high status fields. They didn't suddenly flood advertising, law, or medicine, which are all less white and significantly less male than they were a decade ago, when men shot from 31.2% of law school matriculants in 2016 to 25.7% in 2024. It's not just the US, but in different places because infinite immigrants. Kind of a different issue, but the root is kind of the same. The shift in medicine has been even more dramatic. In 2014, white men were 31% of American medical students. By 2025, they were just 20.5%, a 10% percentage point drop in barely over a decade. At relative numbers, it's a third less, which is huge. Every step there's some sort of selection, a millennial oncologist told me. Medical school admissions with residency programs, chief resident positions, fellowships, it tilts away from white men or white adjacent men. The white guy is now the talking. It's also happening here. They have to emigrate to different countries, even though the medical students here are actually really good. But they keep hiring people from outside because they can just pay them piece poor and they're not gonna complain. And they do terrible, terrible jobs, okay? Make no mistake about that. There wasn't much of a refuge at Google when men went from nearly half the workforce in 2014 to less than a third by 2024. How many Indians? Keep mentioning this, but you know it's true. A 34% decline in 2014 at Amazon, entry-level professionals, college graduates just starting out, were 42.3% white male. These were the employees who, if they advance normally over the next decade, will be the mid-level managers of today. But mid-level managers fell from 58.8% white male in 2014 to just 33.8% in 2024, a decline of nearly 40%. Huge. The pipeline was never 50-50, a former management consultant explained. Elite business school remained around 60% male and predominantly white throughout the 2010s. But we were hiring as if it were 50-50 anyway. But it's not. Once again, you can't have 50-50 everything because the demographics are not 50-50. Are not balanced. For a lot of guys in their mid-30s, around 2017 to 2018, it was a quite dramatic shift. One decade adjacent journalist told me. They're all like, "Whoa! Suddenly every door is closed. I'm just not going to move ahead at this company at all." Because I've been lightly and sometimes not so lightly communicated to me that there's just no way the job I want is going to be given to a white guy. A whole generation found their path was blocked. The refuges that young white men did find, the refuge, my bad. Crypto podcasting Substack. Fucking crypto of all things. You know, it's rough. We're refugees, and precisely because institutional barriers to entry didn't exist. A friend who's now an executive at a major crypto company scraped by as a freelance film editor for years. He applied to Netflix 5 times. Eventually he was told, explicitly, that they didn't need more white guys. Illegal. You should sue them. You should totally sue them, because this is extremely illegal. He didn't go into crypto because it was high status. Hollywood, the high status industry, wouldn't have him. I mean, you still need to survive after all. The DI departments have mostly shut down or quietly rebranded. The mountains of reports and glossy PDFs have been quietly scrubbed, as if to hide the evidence. What was the justification for getting the American meritocracy? No one seems to know. You need to outtrain the new communism system. You can only do that if you completely destroy everything that you have. It's not just communism. If you really ask me what it is, they're using Commies as a tool. They are really good to destabilize societies. What they want to implement is completely different. It's in actuality some sort of technocratic feudalism, where they will have everything and you will have nothing. You will go back to being some sort of peasant, some sort of serf. That appears to be the case if we look at the current state of economy, ramps, and all that. So, it's tempting to wave it all away. A secular decline. White men abandoning fields that were losing status or economic value. The timing doesn't line up. The sharpest declining opportunity for younger white men did happen during the rolling crisis of the past few years. They were baked in during the mid-2010s, when new media was expanding coverage, universities were growing, and Hollywood was at peak TV. I mean, for revenue, I guess. I think it's that good, but sure. Which raises one uncomfortable question. Some uncomfortable questions. Is the media more trusted now than a decade ago? Is Hollywood making better films and in television? Is the academy more respected? Have these institutions become stronger since they systematically excluding entire cohort? Or is the abandoned meritocracy accelerate the decline? The decline one, that's correct. The fact that other groups in other eras have faced worse discrimination than in the grand scheme of things, the disenfranchisement of white male millennials was relatively mild. It's not itself an argument, especially when the entire level establishment insisted that nothing actually happened. And my correction was in fact no correction at all, and that any white man harmed in the process was in fact mediocre, despite the fact that they keep bringing in infinite immigrants, mostly illegal, so they can just pay them pennies, because they can't really complain, because they cannot really sue, because they are illegals. All goes back to the same root. Because what they're really saying is, we weren't supposed to notice. Oh! He said a thing! And he's actually right. Over the past 2 years, I've spoken with dozens of white male millennials, excavating hopes and dreams, disappointments and resentments. To man, they insisted on anonymity. There were frenzied pre-publication negotiations over what personal details I could include, back and forth over words and phrases, requests to change pseudonyms, to sound even less like real names. Standing behind it was a fear. They would end up being that guy. But that's the main problem, that fear. You can just ignore it and be like, you know what, fuck you. This is happening and I will not stand for this. It's the only way— oh, Jesus Christ, this is another one. There was another one. Even the successful white man he spoke to understood that something had fundamentally changed. They expressed gratitude and relief, a recognition that success was contingent, easily disrupted by circumstances beyond their control. There was so much fragility to things going well in the first place, one tenured professor told me. That is natural to think a slight perturbation would have meant things went worse. After the main interview, they stepped out as liberals. Some still are, but to feel the weight of society's disfavor can be disorienting. We millennials were true believers in race and gender-blind meritocracy, which for all its faults, its naivety about human nature, its optimism in the American dream, was far superior to what replaced it. Ah, do you hear the screams now? Antecedent visions whose spectacular betrayal has engendered skepticism toward entire liberal pride that won't soon disappear. I mean, it's not skepticism. The objective of a system is what it does, and this is what it does, so it's obviously it's subjective, so why are you surprised? You shouldn't. What troubles me is that a lot of thriving white millennial men have had to follow the just holy path, but you had to leave liberal America. An old friend, the mother of two biracial children, told me. Not diverse enough. I don't want to do that. Liberal America is my home. But if everyone says this is not the place for you, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? That's just about immigration and displacement. I feel it. I feel it. The solution. Kick them out. Is it going to work? I mean, I don't know. What else can you do, honestly? If we're being honest, what else can you do? Once again, not much. Complaining only gets you so far. I can see the end. I can see the end! We're so over time! Back in the room. Back in the office in early 2016, after the executive had explained why he couldn't hire us, the meeting continued like any other. We talked about what we were working on. He told us about his company's upcoming slate. Some Shanghai detective show, and teaching of a novel about an early Dutch settlement in New Amsterdam. And most Hollywood meetings we concluded by promising to find a way to work together soon. And then, as we were leaving, the exec asked if we wanted to go down to the writer's room and say hello to the showrunner. The room was modest, as far as these things go. A big whiteboard, a long table, people snacking in the back. The showrunner introduced us to the show's creator, and they immediately returned to the debate they'd been having before we arrived. Well, the two people who take two different time machines from different points in the past into the same fixed moment in the future could then switch time machines upon their return. It's kind of the nerd discussions I do enjoy. Were there any hidden paradoxes involved? What were the implications? We gave our feeble input. The rest of the staff is slouched silently in the back. Three comfortable Hollywood lifers in their 40s and 50s, white guys with MTV bios from an alternative universe. His writing career began on the CBS crime series Martial Law, after which he served as a writer and producer on several series throughout the late 90s until the early 2000s, including Freaky Links, Roscoe, John Doe, Boston Public, Lex, and Smallville. I can recognize Smallville of this. That was the Superman one, right? When he was young? In 2005, he joined the writing staff of the medical mystery series House, along with the two younger women who'd gotten jobs we'd been up for. Cocked. Eventually, the time machine could unresolved. We said our goodbyes. There will be other screenplays, other projects, visits to studio lots, and major pitches. But that was the last time either of us saw the inside of the writer's room. That was the moment we came closest to a career. Had the political environment been different, one job might have led to another. And today, I may have colleges, work friends, a whole range of personal experiences, an entirely different life. At the time, I blamed those women. Of course I did. They have stand the TV ladder and work as co-executive producers on major shows. On some level, even today I can't help but think, that could have been me. That should have been me. But those women didn't take their jobs, any more than the 50-year-old Hollywood lifers had. The lifers were still there. They're still there. I'm not angry at the women and people of color who made it instead of me. People have the right, in most cases, the responsibility, to take the opportunities that are offered to them, or even at the other white guys who ensured that I didn't. What this is creating is a generation of men that have nothing to lose. There's nothing more dangerous than that. It's looking dire, that's for sure. That's something I wish to say. But look at us, here we are. Mostly I'm annoyed at myself, because instead of settling down, proposing to my then girlfriend, now wife, and earning a steady income that might support the family, I spent the decade insisting the world treat me fairly, when the world was loudly telling me it had no intention of doing so. I could see what was happening. I was being told point blank what was happening. And still, I thought I'd be the exception. That if I wrote one more script, do one more meeting, I'd slip through. But very few people get to be the exception. It's strange, and more than a little poisonous to see yourself buffeted by forces beyond your control. There's also a comfort in it, because it's less painful to scroll through other people's IMDb pages late at night, figuring out what shortcuts, range, gender connections they took to success, than to grapple with the fact that there are white men my age who have succeeded, and I'm not one of them. I could have worked harder. I could have networked better. I could have been better. The truth is, I'm not some extraordinary talent who was passed over. I'm an ordinary talent, and in ordinary times that would have been enough. But we live in the most stupid times imaginable. Oh shit, it's the end. The actual end. We're so fucking back. There's a model pride here. How could there not be? I had two sons. I used to imagine long before they were born that I would take them to film sets, they'd bring them alone to exciting locations. Instead, their father spends most of his working day in his bedroom, scrolling through spreadsheets and ticket listings. What do I say when my boys ask about my old hopes and dreams? What do I tell them when they ask about theirs? Well, you have to tell them the truth, because if you don't tell them the truth about the world, you're only repeating exactly what happened to you. And you probably shouldn't do that. Because, hey, that's not productive. That's not useful. I think that makes sense. I think that makes sense. Jeez. Well, we made it through. Took a little bit. but we managed. God, what an article! It's kind of depressing, but once again, it's a confirmation of what we already know. It's happening, and it will keep happening because these people don't care. Is that what happens, man? Is that what happens? And they will tell you this doesn't happen. There are no quotas. There are no nothing. What a bunch of lies. What an obvious bunch of lies, I'm afraid. Is there a way to fix this? From the bottom up? Unlikely, but you need to call them out every single step. And if you can sue them, do it. Because what they do is extremely illegal. I know that proving that they hired somebody just because of their intrinsic characteristics is extremely difficult to prove. But if you see any proof of them saying, yeah, we're not hiring more white people, that should be proof enough. That should be disgusting enough for them to get fucked. Shame them publicly. All the information should be completely public. You cannot let them get away. Because if you do, nothing is gonna change. Anyway, that's gonna be everything for me today. We've been going at this for holy shit, almost twice as much the usual time. I'm tapping out, baby. I'm tapping out. So, plan for next week. We're gonna be going through Yakuza 3 on Monday. Well, we're probably playing more Ruby Ruby on Thursday. I may change my mind. I'm not sure. And more yapping next Saturday. Do not come to me on Wednesday, okay? It's gonna be Christmas Eve, so family stuff, please understand. I do have family, despite it being small. It's gonna be pretty much the same for the week after too, so yay! And it's a bit rough. Anyway, thank you all for coming. I hope you had some fun. Didn't get to black pill with the articles. I know shit is rough, but it's important to know. So we'll decompress a little bit on Monday with the Yakuza game. Until then, you know the rules. Always be chimping out because it works, and take care.